Good afternoon. It's Thursday, January 5th, a four-game deeper dive edition, birthday edition, more or less. Happy birthday to Ship My Money DFS. A very exciting day for us, as Adam's going to have some special birthday picks for us. Adam, happy birthday. How are you doing?
Thanks, man. Yeah, doing well. Looking forward to talking about this slate again. But yeah, and then probably going out, having a couple drinks. Didn't get out this afternoon. Had to go buy a mic to get Jordan to shut the hell up. So I didn't get to go out for my birthday afternoon, but looking forward to tonight. So should be a good
Yeah,
night.
no, I mean, producer Jordan been a prima donna of late. So producer Jordan agreed to us in the green room. If Deeper Dive gets 500 likes, he'll sing Adam happy birthday live on stream for us. So if everyone can click that like button, Jordan Klein, producer Redvine Klein, will sing happy birthday for us before lock. So I expect the audience to hit 500 likes for us. As he nods his head and says no, but he's definitely going to sing for us, because what type of asshole wouldn't sing someone happy birthday on their birthday? But shout out to our sponsor, BetMGM, for giving us a sponsor. They have an exciting deal where you can find that link in the description, and producer will be dropping that in the chat. But a four-game slate, not that much injury news, only 8 teams on the slate compared to last night. Is there a key piece of injury news that you're looking forward to? For me, it's the Paul George situation, but everything else, it's kind of, we get Jason Tate back. It's kind of not that important, more or less.
Yeah, Paul George is pretty much, I think, all that we're waiting on right now. This morning we didn't know what Memphis was going to do. We didn't know what Orlando was going to do, but we've gotten injury reports since then. Like you said, Jason Tate back and Eric Gordon not on the injury report, so that's different than this morning. But right now, the only news that we're really waiting on, I think, is Paul George.
Yeah, so it's an important situation to keep an eye on. We'll see. That's the last game of the night. In Eric's Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks, he did say Paul George did board the flight on this little mini road trip that they have. They also have this is a front end of a back-to-back. They also play tomorrow night in Minnesota. Wouldn't shock me if the Clippers do the old switcheroo. Kawhi plays tonight, Kawhi rests tomorrow. PG takes off today and plays tomorrow. So we'll see. I mean, my guess is as good as yours, but we'll go ahead and get started. The first game on tap is Memphis taking on Orlando. Memphis is favored by 6.5, 230 total here. Memphis had a back end of a back-to-back. They played Charlotte last night as they took care of business fairly easily. But we have a situation here where it's, since it's a back end of back-to-back, Desmond Bane is unfortunately ruled out. I really wanted to play him tonight. I do think he's $1,000 too cheap, but that doesn't matter. Him being out does open up some usage and potential extra minutes for some of the backcourt guys. But John Morant's going to stick out to me. 10-4 and 10-5. He's at $44 in Yahoo, certainly in play. How do you feel about John Morant? He was awesome without Bane. He's still awesome with Bane, but 10-4 and 10-5 on this four-game slate. How much interest do you have in John Morant tonight?
Yeah, certainly looks a little bit better with Desmond Bane sitting out tonight. Should give you 34 minutes, give or take, if this game's competitive. And he does get a bump, like you were saying. In the games without Desmond Bane this year, he's played 15 total games, 1.58 DraftKings points per minute, nearly a 36% usage rate, 42% assist percentage. It makes him look good. You do still have Luka Doncic on the slate. You do have Nikola Jokic, but Morant certainly looking better than he did this morning. And it's not like he looked bad this morning either. Currently pulling about 23% ownership on DraftKings, 22% chance of being optimal. So happy to get to Ja here where I can.
Definitely. And then obviously with no Bane, I've been excited to go to Dylan Brooks just because he's surely not shy of taking away some of that usage. Comes in at 5'6" and 5'5". I like going to him getting above here just because there's a guy missing who's taking up a lot of minutes. There was a time where Conchar was starting as well. Could we also get above the field on Brooks and Conchar? How do you feel about just taking advantage of Bane's absence?
Yeah, I think that it just really opens up a lot, especially because the way this slate is set up, there's a lot of good center options. There's a lot of good guard options. Being able to get to forwards that are relatively inexpensive is pretty valuable, especially since Eric Gordon is playing. So you lost that KJ Martin value that we thought we were going to have this morning. So without Bane, I expect John Conchar to move into the starting lineup. He's shooting guard, small forward eligible at 4K, likely to give you upper 20s in minutes. Tyus Jones is likely to play more minutes alongside John Morant now that Bane is out. He's only 4,300, so that's a reasonable spot to go to as well. Santi Aldama at 3,400. I don't entirely know why he's getting so much ownership. Like, I get it in the sense that he's cheap and he's likely to play, around 20 minutes. I don't think being out should have really an impact on him. I think it's likely to benefit Conchar, Roddy, Williams. It shouldn't impact Aldama. So kind of confused why his ownership's as high as it is. But, losing KJ Martin probably did drive that up a bit. Dylan Brooks at 5,600 is going to look a little bit better without Bane. Obviously, with him, it still really just comes down to, is his shot falling? And there's no real way to predict that. You can predict it and the answer will be no, but you can, sometimes it happens. So still going to get more looks most likely without Bane.
Yeah, before we touch on the front court, thank you to a $20 super chat from Jorge, a regular on the show, saying, happy birthday, Adam. And those pivot calls yesterday, like Van Vliet, worked perfectly. And yeah, Van Vliet was outstanding last night. And it's the nature of DFS, where it just can find a guy with a low-owned option on a large slate, can certainly pan out. You nail the rest of your lineup, but that definitely worked out for Van Vliet. And thank you so much for that $20 super chat. And now on to the front court. It's Triple J and Steven Adams. Steven Adams has been awesome in terms of without what's his name, Brandon Clark being out. Adams at comes in at 5,700 and then priced up all the way up to $7,300 on FanDuel. I think we can definitely go to the $5,700 price tag. I mean, it sounds crazy. The $7,300 price tag on FanDuel is certainly not out of play just because he's playing so many minutes. He's been pretty efficient in those minutes. $24 on Yahoo. I like going to Adams over Triple J. I mean, Triple J certainly has an upside, given where you get more points for blocks. How do you feel about attacking the front court? Obviously, with no Brandon Clark there, there's certainly been minutes been opening up a little bit more extra for Adams than we're used to.
Yeah, I like the front court here a lot. Steven Adams leads the team in ownership right now at 40%, and I think it's deserved. 36% chance of being optimal. $5,700 price tag. I mean, on DraftKings, this is somebody that I've been playing at pretty low ownership, even when Brandon Clark has been in. I would certainly be playing him at 5,700 if Clark were in. With Clark out, you can project a couple more minutes. He played about 16 minutes in the first half yesterday. Obviously lost some playing time to the blowout, but if this game's competitive, you're likely getting 30, 32 minutes from Steven Adams. Perfectly fine spot for him, so he looks really good. There are a lot of center plays today, so paying attention to ownership is going to be important, but he deserves the ownership that he's getting. And then Jaren Jackson at 6,500, still just looks good. If he plays around 28 minutes, you should get a little bit more usage for him without Desmond Bane. Obviously, foul risk is always a thing with him, but he's going to look like a good option. We still didn't see any backup center minutes from him yesterday. I didn't expect to, but I would say that there's a better chance that he gets them when Xavier Tillman's the backup than when Brandon Clark is the backup. But we still didn't see that yesterday. Non-zero chance that maybe he gets a couple here, but one way or the other, even if he's playing all of his minutes at the 4, I think he's going to look perfectly fine at 6,500 still.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly worth taking some chances with this Memphis team across the board. But I do want to touch on the bench, especially Tyus Jones. He's getting some ownership. He was outstanding over the weekend. Certainly going to be some minutes there at 4,300 and comes in at 4,900 on FanDuel. I certainly like taking some chances on Tyus Jones. No issues whatsoever. How about anyone else off the bench? You touched on Aldama, but any interest going to a guy like Roddy or Tillman sounds gross, but any other interest off the bench outside of Tyus Jones?
So yeah, I definitely like Jones. He's averaged 24 minutes per game in the 15 games that he's played without Bane and with Morant and Brooks this season. At 4,300, that's going to make him look like a pretty reasonable value on the 4-game slate. As far as the other guys, not really. David Roddy at 3K would be the guy that I went to if I have to. He's only pulling 2% ownership, and there's a path for him to do well. Like if he plays well off the bench, if he's knocking down shots, like he can cut into John Konchar's minutes. He could, depending on how the game goes, or if Dylan Brooks is in foul trouble, steal a couple minutes from Brooks if he's playing well. So there's like at least a path for him, but it's still not a very good point per minute guy. And it's somebody that realistically probably isn't going to play enough minutes to matter.
Awesome. On to the Orlando side we go. This Orlando team is wrapping up with all the suspensions, but they get another potential body back in Jalen Suggs. And Suggs returning might muddy up the rotation a decent amount, in my opinion, especially the backcourt. They still have Cole Anthony there. They have Markelle Fultz there. To be honest, I'm not sure what the minutes will look like just because I don't think there's been a game with all 3 of these guys healthy yet this season. So I'm going to lean on you and what do you think is going to happen with the backcourt here with potentially Jalen Suggs returning?
Yeah. Is he definitely returning? Because he's listed as question.
I said potentially returning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if he comes back, especially in his first game back after the prolonged absence, I don't know that it changes a lot, especially right now, because like yesterday you got a bunch of minutes from Caleb Houston, you got a bunch of minutes from Gary Harris. So I think that right now it probably doesn't matter too much. Like you probably would still get mid-20s minutes from Anthony. You're still probably getting around 30 from Markel Fultz. But as you know, going forward, it's certainly going to make a difference. This team, I think we've talked about it before, but this team is going to be a mess once they start getting everybody back. Once you get these guys back from suspension, once you get Suggs back, once you eventually maybe get Jonathan Isaac back. But for right now, I don't think it should matter too much. RJ Hampton played 23 minutes yesterday. He's now in the G League, so those minutes are available. Caleb Houston played 28 minutes. So, I mean, that's a lot of minutes that are opening up. You're getting Franz Wagner back, but he's obviously not playing 51 or 52 minutes. So for right now, I don't think Suggs' return matters all that much.
Yeah, and now on to like the front court side of things. Bobo is out with, I believe, with the health and safety protocols, and Mo Wagner is also out. So last night I was pretty heavily on Wendell Carter Jr. He comes in at 6'4" and only $5,900 on FanDuel. I like going back to him. The minutes limit was off. Yes, it's a back and a back to back. Just I guess be a little cautious, but I expect him to play around 30 minutes as our data and tools team has that projected. Paulo Banchero was nice last night. He comes in at 8K and 7,800. The front court seems like a place where we can definitely go to, but is this a place where I think the field kind of has it right with the projected ownership right now? I don't think I have a lean one way or the other. I'm hoping I come in with the field type of situation here. Do you have a lean one way or the other?
Pretty much have it. Go ahead.
I said, do you have a lean one way or the other?
No, I'm with you. Wendell Carter Jr. certainly looks better on FanDuel than on DraftKings. He's pulling 52% ownership with a 42% chance of being optimal on FanDuel because not only is he $400 or $500 less expensive on FanDuel, he also has power forward eligibility. So just a totally different play there and looks absolutely phenomenal. On DraftKings, he looks good. But the thing you have to keep in mind on DraftKings, as we go through this slate, we've already talked about Steven Adams on the other side of this game. We're going to have Alperen Şengün at like a $5,800 price tag, I think. We have Ivica Zubac, sub 5K. You have Nikola Jokic. You have so many good centers, even though it is only a 4-game slate, that the opportunity cost is high, and that's going to pull down the ownership on Carter a bit. He's coming in at 22% with about a 19% chance of being optimal. So still a good play, just not nearly as good on DraftKings as on FanDuel. Banchero at 8K looks good. Anthony at 5,100. You like the volatility that he gives you. Yesterday he played about 30 minutes, picked up a few minutes because Markel Fultz was in foul trouble in the second quarter. On average, you get around 24 or 25 minutes from Anthony. Sometimes you're getting 20 and he disappoints, but he gives you 28 to 30 often enough that he's certainly playable at 5,100. Franz Wagner back at 6,800. I'm kind of interested in Fultz just because he's not really pulling ownership at 6,300. And I think it's just a situation of he just has enough random fluky game logs that people get kind of scared to go there. But in games where the game is competitive and Fultz manages to avoid injury and foul trouble, which just seems few and far between, in those games, you are still likely to get around 30 minutes from him. I don't think he's any sort of a priority, but I think that he's just a little bit less ownership than he probably should at 6,300.
Yeah, this Orlando team, Fultz will definitely become more intriguing to me if Suggs is out. But now, if Suggs is out, do you think we can go to like Gary Harris again, who was really good last night? It's been a while since Gary Harris. I felt like he'd put up 30 fantasy points in a game. It felt like he did it in Denver. But do you think we can go back to Gary Harris? He's not getting much ownership at all. It's a gross play, or Bamba. Any other interest here with Mo Wagner out?
Yeah, so Bamba is basically just the backup center to Carter. That's the rotation I'd expected yesterday, but there's always a chance that they were going to play them alongside each other. But they've had a tendency this year, no matter who their center rotation is, to kind of just have a backup center. And so that's what they did yesterday. Bamba just backed up Wendell Carter Jr. There is still upside for Bamba because if you get foul trouble for Wendell Carter Jr. or they limit him somewhat on the second half of a back-to-back, whatever the case may be, if Bamba finds a way to play 22 to 24 minutes, he's suddenly a really strong option at relatively low ownership. The problem is you just can't afford to miss on the center position today with how many good options there are. And it's a situation where even if Bamba goes out there and gets you like 22, 24 fantasy points, you're probably going to wish you would go into a different center. So at low ownership, if you're playing 150 lineups, I could see getting some Bamba. But if you're talking one lineup, 3 lineups, trying to prioritize them, I don't really see any reason to get there. As far as Gary Harris goes, I think it's likely that he remains in the starting lineup, especially if Suggs is out. If Suggs is back, I'm not sure what they would do. I don't know if they move Anthony into the starting lineup. I don't know if Suggs immediately rejoins it or if they stay with Harris. But If he's starting, especially if Suggs is out, I
He
think
is
there's still a
starting.
path.
Gary Harris is starting, yeah.
Okay.
And Jalen Suggs is
And
available to
Suggs,
play. Yeah.
perfect timing. So like I think his minutes are risky, but I think there's still a path to him playing around 26, 28 minutes. Pay attention to the ownership because it's not like he's a good point per minute guy. It's not like his minutes are particularly safe. So if you get this situation where like all of that Santi Aldama ownership turns into Gary Harris ownership, I would like to pivot to some other guys. But if it remains where like Santi Aldama is pulling a ton and Gary Harris is getting like 5%, then I do like the idea of going to some Gary Harris just because we do need those cheap guys on this slate, especially since Eric Gordon apparently is playing.
Yeah, and there's some high class studs on the slate, so we need to potentially spend down somewhere where it might be uncomfortable to get in that extra stud. So completely aligned with you there. Click that like button for us. We're only 300 likes away from getting to 500 before Jordan will sing for Adam. So please click that like button. Also, shout out to BetMGM. Go to that link in the description where you can find out how to get 2 free months Stokastic plus Platinum. So don't miss out on that and some exciting other 7-day free trial to our NBA Bet Pro and 5-day free trial to Stokastic Plus. So make sure to check out all of that if you haven't been a member of Stokastic Plus yet. On to Boston and Dallas we go. Boston is 3-point favorites at Dallas with a 232 total. Boston coming off one of the worst regular season games I've seen in some time as OKC just absolutely waxed and put up a nice 150 piece in regulation without SGA. So Boston coming back off that really humbling loss, I want to say. But on the Boston side of things, you got to look at Tatum and Brown. Those two are the guys who kind of lead the show there. Tatum comes in expensive, 10-9 and 10-8, but he's paid off that price tag for quite a bit of this season. Now in a Dallas spot, it's kind of a pace down spot for them. It's a 4-game slate. I'll get to some Tatum. I don't know how much at this moment. Certainly, you're going to have some interest in him in tournaments because he can certainly pay that off. But at what cost? The opportunity cost when there's a Jokic and a Luka on the slate. Tatum also kind of also feels like he always comes in on his own island, never gets that much ownership just because it's Jason Tatum. People are probably not used to this type of price tag yet. How do you feel about Jason Tatum specifically in this Dallas spot?
He strikes me as the kind of guy that is going to be difficult to get to and also is scary not to get to because on the one hand, it's the things working against him are that Dallas plays extremely slowly. You have John Morant playing without Desmond Bane. You have Nikola Jokic and you have Luka Doncic on the slate. And then you have Jason Tatum playing with a fully healthy Boston team against a super slow Dallas team. So at a nearly 11K price tag, it's just basically impossible to say, or at least have good reasons for saying, like, I like Jason Tatum more than Morant or Jokic or Doncic. But he is only pulling about 12% ownership on DraftKings, which is about half of Morant. It's about half of Jokic. It's, certainly going to be less than Doncic. And it's still Jason Tatum. Like, this guy can just go out there and crush anybody. So on a 4-game slate, there is still some merit to going there. But the thing that I kind of go back to is, yeah, he's lower owned than those guys, but we still have him or we actually have him going a little bit under owned here. We have him with a 17% chance of being optimal, only 11% ownership. So if that holds, I think getting to him makes some more sense. If that ownership comes up, though, like, even if you get a situation where it's like, oh, well, he's getting 17 to 20%, and so he's lower owned than those guys, but it would be more in line with where he probably should be. So that's something I'd definitely be paying attention to.
Yeah, I think Jaylen Brown's it's an expensive pivot off of as well, 9,500 and 9,200. I like the FanDuel price tag if you want to go there. I'm getting a little bit of sticker shock seeing 9K plus for Jaylen Brown with Tatum playing. So keep that in mind. Other guys who I think certainly viable options. Marcus Smart comes in at 6K on both sides. Like that FanDuel price tag quite a bit. We'll see what the front court rotation looks like now with Robert Williams expected to play 4,100 and 5K for Rob Williams. I'm always skeptical with this rotation right now just because he's coming off the bench. His floor is honestly as low as 8 minutes, and his ceiling could be like mid-20s minutes. It really comes down to game flow, what Joe Mazzulla was doing here with Rob Williams. So I'm skeptical, but I do think he makes for a great tournament option. The opportunity cost at center is Nikola Jokic, so keep that in mind. That's a pretty big opportunity cost here. I'd rather play Derek White than Malcolm Brogdon. I know Brogdon comes in at 4,800. It's just a pure ownership pivot, in my opinion. How do you feel about this backcourt and Rob Williams?
So Robert Williams is interesting to me because he's a good point per minute guy. He's likely to give you like 18 to 22 minutes. Eventually he's going to play more, but recently they haven't been playing him and Horford alongside each other much. And So it's just, based on what they've been doing, you're likely to get 18 to 22 minutes. In that case, I don't think he's very different than Mo Bamba. And you have 13% ownership coming to Williams. You have 3 going to Bamba. They're very similar plays where they're good point per minute guys, and you probably need them to play a couple minutes more than they have been recently. Williams certainly has the easier path to minutes, but at the same time, like, you could get Carter alongside Bamba as well. We've seen them do that, even though, again, I'm not projecting it tonight. So I think there's too big of an ownership gap between the two of them, but I do understand the appeal of Robert Williams just because he's 4,100. He's a good point per minute guy. As far as Brogdon and White, I think they're both kind of interesting in tournaments. Brogdon's the better point per minute guy. He averages 23 to 24 minutes per game off the bench. White averages 27 to 28 minutes as a starter. So they're going to look pretty similar in terms of projection. They're similarly priced as well, but neither one's getting more than 8% ownership. So they're both pretty solid ways to differentiate. One spot that I do think is interesting, though, and I mean, it's painful to say after last game, but Al Horford is $5,000 with power forward eligibility, and he's pulling 5% ownership. Not that he's a very good, not that he's a great point per minute guy or anything like that, but he is still likely to play around 30 minutes here with forward eligibility, a cheap price tag, and no ownership. Not like somebody I'm looking to just jam into a ton of lineups, but I do think he's going a little bit under owned.
Yeah, I definitely think Al Horford could put up mid-30s fantasy points if he gets that extra uptick in minutes. And that kind of outlier outcome is kind of all you need on this 4-game slate. He certainly has that in his bag. So a great tournament option. But the rest of this team here, anyone off the bench, Grant Williams, Hauser, I think it's just like I think this Boston team is pretty much, we've touched on everything. Any final thoughts?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. Very unappealing spot in general for them going up against Dallas.
Yeah, so
but it's still a 118 total. Like, it's not like this is likely to be a low scoring game.
Oh no, definitely not. I think it's a great tournament team to go right back to after they got their pretty much waxed the other game. So onto the Dallas side to go. It's the Luka Doncic show. Luka comes in at 12-6 and 12-8. He's just on a historic tear. Now, does he keep up this historic tear? He certainly can. But on this 4-game slate, the one thing that makes Luka really tough to get to, there's just not that much cheap value. By cheap meaning sub 4K value. We're talking about guys like Gary Harris, a lot of guys who are extremely volatile players and with very low floors. But Luka is certainly still getting the ownership. Seems like players are still trying to find a way to get him in there. But rightfully so. 12-6 and 12-8, $60 on Yahoo. Is this a situation tonight that you think you'll be getting above the field on Luka, or is it just like he's too expensive and you just take your chances on this Boston defense kind of slowing him down and going to be under the field?
Yeah, so I mean, for full disclosure, I haven't decided if I'm even playing or going out to enjoy my birthday. So purely hypothetically speaking, at least right now, I think I'd probably still be getting over the field here just because there's not a ton of good cheap value right now, but there's still a couple of things that make me think I can get to him. One is that there are cheap plays. And even though it's tough to pinpoint one and say like, oh, this guy's going to be great, you do still have enough cheap guys where like there's a pretty good chance one or two of them do run into being productive enough that that you're glad you rostered them. But then also you have the possibility of Paul George sitting and opening up a much more appealing Reggie Jackson or Luke Kennard or whoever it may be from the Clippers. So there's a couple of different ways that it could work out. And Luka just projects so well. He's playing huge minutes right now with Kleba and Finney-Smith and Green all sidelined. And he's the best point per minute guy on the slate as well. Certainly, not the best matchup against Boston, but should be a competitive game. And again, does still have a very healthy total. So I really like getting to Luka, especially with it just being a 4-game slate. And, he's clearly the highest projected guy. Only 1/4 of the field's projected to roster him. I still really like getting there.
Yeah, I think can't argue against that. But before then, click that like button as we near 300 likes, only 200 away, and Jordan will sing for Adam. But we do have a super chat from Aiden Quiskin, a $199 super chat. Thank you for that. How do you feel about game stacks on short slates, Adam?
Kind of similarly to the way I do on larger slates. I actually think that they go. It kind of depends on how you're referring to them. Like on a shorter slate, if you're saying like a game stack in the sense of like jamming in 7 guys from the same game, I would be more likely to do that on a short slate just because there's less opportunity cost. There's less just total good plays to get to. But I do think people sort of sleep on mini game stacking on larger slates too. So I like it on both. The reason being, like, you always hear people talk about the negative correlation between teammates, if teammate A is shooting, teammate B isn't, vice versa. But you also just get games that shoot over their total, where you get overtime, where you get refs that are constantly calling fouls, and you have teams in the bonus for 11 minutes, at the end of the half or something. Like there's parts of a game that make the game environment very, very appealing and benefit everybody playing in it. So I actually think they get slept on a little bit in general. But yeah, it kind of depends on like how many you're talking about. Like even on a short slate, I'm not just going to start forcing in, full game stacks. But if you were going to, it would be better on shorter slates. But in general, I actually think it makes some sense and people sort of sleep on it to try and maybe use mini game stacks a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I think organically you'll get more game stacks on shorter slates, just how like NBA DFS will work out for you. And projections should sometimes lead to that as is. I'm not an avid game stacker. It maybe has burned me in the past, but it's not something that I actively do. I haven't gone back or back tested anything, but it's certainly an intriguing aspect as NBA totals go up and whatnot. So it's something to keep an eye on going forward. But
Also,
the rest of this
there's just so many blowouts too. So
yeah,
like that's another reason I kind of like it, is like you just get so many games that blow out now that getting one that's competitive is actually really beneficial.
agreed. And yeah, it's just a lot of NBA. It can be just like you get that one game that gets over, and you've seen game stacks definitely win in the past, but not something that I actively do. But the rest of this Dallas team, it's always tough for me to get to this Dallas team when they're sharing the court with Luka. They're kind of all priced appropriately, in my opinion. Wood, Dinwiddie, I think they're fine if you get to in tournaments. Dinwiddie has burned me quite a bit over the past couple of weeks as Luka's it's been his team, his show. I don't mind sprinkling Reggie Bullock at 3,500 just because of how gross value is. Maybe you can knock down enough wide open threes, but everyone else, they're not getting much ownership, and I think I'll be coming under the field. How do you feel about the rest of Dallas?
Yeah, I think it's pretty much where it should be. Christian Wood at 7,900. If he avoids foul trouble and plays well, he certainly can play low to mid 30s, and he's a good point per minute guy. Spencer Dinwiddie at 6,200. Josh and I spent a while talking about him this morning because it's really interesting. He's playing huge minutes now without Dinwiddie or without Finney Smith and Green and Kleba. But the problem is that there's two problems. One, Luka Doncic is playing more minutes, and Spencer Dinwiddie's production is very dependent on getting the minutes when Luka Doncic isn't on the floor. He still gets those, but if it's only going to be like 8 minutes, that's not nearly as appealing as when Luka's playing like 36 minutes and you're getting 12 for Dinwiddie. So that's one thing. But then also you've essentially replaced Dwight Powell or Dorian Finney-Smith, however you want to think about it, with Christian Wood in the starting lineup. So you're going from that really low usage guy to Christian Wood. And when you look at Spencer Dinwiddie's rates when both Luka and Wood are on the floor this year, it's like a 15% usage rate or something in that ballpark. I don't have it in front of me, but off the top of my head, it's in that ballpark. And so you're getting this situation where, yeah, he's playing more minutes, but he's playing really unfavorable minutes for his production. It kind of just ends up coming out in the wash because you can't project him for the points per minute that you've been getting for the season, but you also can project him for more minutes. So basically, very long-winded way of saying that Dinwiddie getting 14% ownership, 14% chance of being optimal, all pretty much checks out to me. I'm with you as far as Bullock. Like, you should feel absolutely horrible if you put him in a lineup, but he is going to play big minutes. He is $3,500. He is low owned. The way the value looks right now, that's kind of all that I need to be interested in somebody.
Yeah, I know this team. I think you pretty much earned it pretty well here. I like Bullock at $10 on Yahoo if you just want to throw in some guy at that spot, but it's tough. I mean, this is going to be as a slate to dive into, trying to find that one couple value pieces that perform expectations and getting those right studs in because there's not that much value right now the way things stand. Any final thoughts on this game before we move on to the next one?
No, but I would like to put out there that I absolutely do not want Lindquist singing "Happy Birthday" to me. I will not accept it.
No, it's only producer Jordan. It's only going to be producer Jordan. We do not need Eric singing for Adam. So 500 likes and producer Red Vine Klein will sing for Adam on what X birthday is this? If you want to disclose the chat.
What'd you say?
What birthday is this?
33.
33. Wow. Who's the best NBA player to wear 33? Jordan. There you go. I bet you had one of those bird jerseys walking around DePaul. All right. Sure you didn't. You seem like a Jersey guy. But on to Utah and Houston. Utah Larry Markin had an incredible shot that was just like zero point 0.1 seconds after the game ended. But Utah in a great spot against Houston. These guys are priced up, especially Markin in 9K and 8.6 against the Houston spot. He certainly can pay it off, but DraftKings has done a good job with pricing, just pricing these guys up, making it tough for our decisions. I like going to Clarkson at $7,300 and $6,800. He's probably my preferred Jazz player to go to. Mike Conley continues to get some ownership. He's been okay. I have been coming in under the field on Conley quite a bit this season. We'll see how this pans out tonight. Olynyk looks like a fine option to go to in this Houston spot, 53 and 5,500. A very appealing Jazz team, kind of like from top to bottom, even looking at guys like Beasley and Vanderbilt getting some ownership. Break down this Utah team for us in a great Houston spot.
Yeah, so for one, I'm more interested in them now than I was this morning for two reasons. One is that we lost KJ Martin value on the other side of this game. So you just have a bigger need for anything that resembles inexpensive players. But two, we've seen the ownership come down quite a bit. This morning, we had Mike Conley projected for like 27% ownership or something, which I thought was a little bit insane. But $5,700 now projected for 18%. He should give you around 30 minutes. He actually played 33 last game, so you could get more. He's about a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy on average, but has a good matchup here against Houston. So I think that ownership makes sense. Malik Beasley, shooting guard, small forward at 5K, likely to pick up a couple of extra minutes with Colin Sexton out. And then also, frequently is in the closing lineup for this team. We had seen them for the first couple of games after everybody kind of came back, like even after like Sexton was back and then Olynyk was back. You had seen them splitting 48 minutes between Vanderbilt and Kessler, which is bad for Malik Beasley. But then last game you did see Kelly Olynyk play 6 or 7 minutes without Vanderbilt or Kessler on the floor, which is good for Beasley because it means that they're sliding Beasley in, moving Markkanen down a position, and that's how Beasley gets those games where he plays 30 minutes off the bench. I expect them to continue doing that, and again, I also expect him to pick up a couple of Colin Sexton's minutes as well. So 5K for Beasley makes sense. 18% ownership, certainly reasonable. I like Kelly Olynyk at 5,300. He was disappointing last game, but still played 28 and a half minutes. When he's not in foul trouble, you're typically going to get around 30. He's about a point per minute guy in a good spot here. Jordan Clarkson certainly has upside, 7,300. Again, I think correctly owned. But I think the front court here is interesting too. They're not getting quite as much ownership. But Jared Vanderbilt, 5,100. 11% projected ownership with power forward and center eligibility. His playing time is volatile, but that's sort of what makes him appealing in tournaments is that he can't pull that much ownership because people can't be that confident that he's going to play enough minutes to be a good option. But he's going to go out there and play 28 plus minutes often enough that he can really be a difference maker for you in tournaments. Similarly with Walker Kessler, he's 5K, he is center only, so he has a much higher opportunity cost than Vanderbilt when you think about it in terms of positions. But if Kessler's playing well and or Vanderbilt's in foul trouble and you get that 26, 28-minute game from Kessler, he's probably going to destroy a $5,000 salary as well. So I like the upside those guys offer. And then Lauri Markkanen, expensive at 9K, but a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy playing around 36 minutes in a good matchup. He is a way where, maybe if you want to go a different route and go a little bit more balanced on this slate, which, Luka and Jokic make it difficult to do, and Morant. But, if you did want to just say, all right, well, what if I just don't play the Santi Aldama or Gary Harris or whoever else, guys in that price range, and, I do go a little bit balanced and just hope that Markkanen goes for 50 plus. There's some appeal there. The final spot that I would mention is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's pulling 4% ownership. Going back to the starts and scrubs approach, and right now, my criteria for choosing scrubs just being I would like to take guys that aren't very popular. Alexander Walker played about 15 minutes last game, but we did get Agbaji playing about 7 minutes in the first half. He didn't play it all in the second half. If they were to kick Agbaji out of the rotation here, it's likely that you do get 18 to 20 minutes from Alexander Walker. In the 3 previous games where Sexton had been out and Conley was in, you got 19 apiece from Alexander Walker. So just another guy where you shouldn't be very confident in him doing well, but he has enough games in his range of outcomes where he really, really does well at low ownership that I do think he's interesting.
Yeah, no, I think that's an interesting back end rotation to work out. I like the Kessler call. He's not getting that much ownership, but he has a huge ceiling if somehow he gets those minutes and certainly can pay off a 4-game slate here. Just under 2,000 people watching, around 360 likes or so. So 140 more likes, and Jordan will sing for us. So Jordan will sing. He has confirmed that. But out of the Houston side we go. They get the return of Jae'Sean Tate. He's missed like over the last 30 games here. I am very curious on whose minutes he's going to take away from us. It's probably a combination of Easton, KJ Martin, and maybe some Jabari Smith. We'll see what these minutes look like for Jayshawn Tate. Houston is also on the back end of the back-to-back. But in Houston, I look at Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. I tend to prefer Green to Porter Jr. Porter Jr. is priced up now, 7,684. Priced up, especially on FanDuel. I think Jalen Green's a fine option to go to tonight, 6,600, where you get the 3-point bonus. 7,200 on FanDuel is all right. Not as I do prefer that DraftKings price tag. The ownership indicates that as well. Jabari Smith Jr. has been playing much, much better of late. And he's, I think, a solid value option at 48 and 5K. He's certainly getting some ownership tonight. But in a Utah spot, I have no issues getting to Jabari Smith Jr. Now, everyone else for me, it's tough for me to go to anyone in confidence just because of what's going to happen with Jayshawn Tate's minutes and who he's going to take them away. I expect him to be limited. Right now, we have him for around just under 18 minutes, but it kind of ruins everyone else. Talk to me about the Houston starters and how do you expect the Jayshawn Tate rotation to affect everyone else?
Yeah, so Tate, I think, makes anybody coming off the bench riskier, but at least for right now, where I do expect him to be limited, I still think you can potentially take shots at some of these bench guys. Again, not with any real confidence, but just at low ownership. Looking at like the rotation Houston ran yesterday, for example, we got 10 and a half minutes from Garrison Matthews. You got 24 and a half minutes from Kenyon Martin Jr. So let's say all of the Garrison Matthews minutes go to Jayshawn Tate. And then let's say, so that gives them 10 and a half. And let's say, 6 minutes from Kenyon Martin Jr. go there. So you just get a situation where like you're getting 17, 18 minutes from both Tate and KJ Martin. At 35 and 3,700, they're capable of putting up a good enough score, but it's not very likely. So they shouldn't be guys that you're building around. But if they get into a lineup here or there, I think it's fine. We have them both projected between 17 and 18 DraftKings points. Tari Eason at 3,900, getting 2% ownership. He probably loses a couple of minutes here as well. But the alternative is that what if they take away like Bruno Fernando's minutes and you get Tari Eason playing some minutes at the 5? Because they've been going with a 3-man center rotation where it's Şengün, Garuba, and Fernando. If you take away Fernando's 8 minutes, give those to Eason at the 5, that's another way you can just kind of open up minutes where KJ Martin still plays around 20, Jayshawn Tate comes in and plays around 18, and Tari Eason still gets his around 18. So there's ways that this can work. It's all very risky, and it would be with or without Jayshawn Tate, but certainly a little bit more riskier with him in there. As far as the starters, though, I don't think Tate should have any impact there. Alperen Şengün at 5,800 is going to look good, should give you 27, 28 minutes if this game's competitive. Jalen Green's $1,000 less expensive than Kevin Porter Jr. on DraftKings, so I do prefer him there, although they both certainly look good. Likely to get 34, 35 minutes from both of those guys. You mentioned Jabari Smith. His playing time has been up recently as he has started to play well. I just have a hard time believing that Jayshawn Tate's return, at least right now, is going to really take minutes away from Jabari Smith. Like, you finally have your very early first-round pick starting to look like an NBA basketball player. I don't really know why you would just say, oh, yeah, well, now we want him to play fewer minutes so that we can make sure that we keep, Bruno Fernando in the rotation or, get Jayshawn Tate a couple more minutes or whatever it may be. So I think they probably find ways to get Tate his minutes without it coming from Jabari Smith. So at 4,800, I still think Jabari Smith's very interesting. And then Eric Gordon is just another $3,500 guy who sucks. You should have no confidence in him. He's about a 2/3 of a fantasy point per minute guy this year. That being said, if he plays 26 to 28 minutes, he is fine, because as long as it's getting you something good elsewhere in your lineup.
Yeah, no, I think the Houston situation, like, it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out for us. There's a good chance one of those guys could be out of the rotation. We'll see. I have no idea what they're going to do with Jayshawn Tate, but I'd be shocked if Jayshawn Tate plays more than 20 minutes tonight. Can we play Jayshawn Tate?
I think you can, in the same way that like you can play KJ Martin. It's if you're playing 150 lineups and you're just sort of, because the way I'm kind of thinking through this, and I'd said it earlier when we talked about Luka, I think it would be likely that I'm just playing a ton of Luka, and I'm not playing Luka. I'm probably playing a ton of like Morant and or Jokic. So from like a 150 perspective, I think it makes sense to sort of just like be concentrated on like Luka and then rotating through as many of these like cheap guys that have some chance at a good game as you can. If you're playing like one lineup, I certainly wouldn't be going with Jayshawn Tate.
Yeah, I think it's a risky play for sure. And now, obviously, the minutes are going to be all over the place. So we'll see how that pans out. Şengün becomes a very interesting pivot at center from obviously spending up for Jokic and maybe Steven Adams going to garner quite a bit of ownership, 5,800, and he comes in at 6K over there on FanDuel. I think he's a fine option to go to even at $19 on Yahoo in this Utah spot. Any final thoughts on this Utah-Houston matchup before we move on to the last one?
Richard McDonald said any chance that Gordon is active but hardly plays on the back-to-back. I mean, he's typically in the starting lineup, so if Gordon is not in the starting lineup, that would be a huge red flag. But if he's starting, there's no real way you can assume that he's not playing somewhat normal minutes.
All right. Click that like button. We're 87 likes away before we hear Jordan Klein's vocal cords for everybody. Just above 2,000 people watching us right now. Thanks so much for joining us on Adam's birthday. But the nightcap, a very important nightcap between the Clippers and the Nuggets, potential conference finals preview. And we're dealing with the Paul George situation where it's going to be really tricky to navigate as this is the last game on the slate. And we might not know up until tip-off, but hopefully we might get the news. We'll see how that pans out. But George comes in at 8,800, Kawhi at 8,100, 9,4 and 9K for George and Kawhi on FanDuel respectively. Now, if they both play, certainly make for great tournament options. We'll see what the minutes look like. It kind of ruins a lot of the Clippers for me if they both play. My hypothesis is George will potentially sit today and play tomorrow, and Kawhi plays today and sits tomorrow. But this is just a guess. So I'm willing to take some guesses on this type of slate when there is only so many limited late swap opportunities presented to us. But I do think it makes for great tournament options if George sits, because that will increase my interest in guys like Marcus Morris Sr. Keep in mind, there's no Nick Batum. I can see Terrence Mann starting become a great tournament option at $4,100, not so much at 54. It's a very interesting tournament team to present with the Clippers today. Zubac is getting quite a bit of ownership against this Jokic spot. There have been times where Zubac has faced some foul trouble, and there have been times where he's destroyed Jokic as well. So it's a spot where I think you'll be willing to take some chances on Zoo just because of the lack of center options we have outside of spending up. How do you feel about this Clippers team? I know it's tough to talk about with this injury situation, but break it down.
Yeah, so if Paul George is in, I'll just start there. If Paul George is in, Paul George looks good. He's shooting guard, small forward. He's 8,800. He's another one where, like, if maybe you are going a little bit more balanced, you don't want to deal with all the shitty value. You're just going a little bit more balanced. Paul George is at least somebody in that 9K range that is capable of giving you a very, very big game. Clearly his production comes down a little bit when he plays with Kawhi, but he'd still look good. Kawhi at 8,100, same thing. His production comes down when George plays, but assuming he's going to play 32 to 34 minutes, he's still going to look like a pretty solid option. Probably get squeezed out a little bit where you are going stars and scrubs. Like if you start a lineup with Luka, it's probably going to be tough to then say like, oh yeah, well, I want Kawhi too. Like you're probably going to kind of be getting off of that spot. But in non-Luka lineups, those two guys make a lot of sense. Zubac looks good just from a salary standpoint. Like certainly a risky matchup in terms of fouls, like you said, but you also have to think that the Clippers are going to want him out there quite a bit, assuming he can avoid foul trouble. And he's a good point per minute guy. If George is out, he looks even better because you get a little bit more production. You get a couple extra minutes added on this projection as well. Marcus Morris and Reggie Jackson are both plays that similarly, they're at price points that are so cheap. Morris at 4,700, Jackson at 4,400. You can't have a lot of confidence in those guys, but they are likely to play enough minutes that they project reasonably well, even if Paul George is in, and then they project a bit better if George is out, since you're getting more usage opening up. Luke Kennard at 3,300, if you want to sort of just gamble on a cheap option, he is only 3,300. You do have minutes available from Nick Batum. I don't know exactly where they go. Like Batum has been subbing in for Zubac, but you could also you could still just have that be anybody else with Marcus Morris playing the 5 when Zubac isn't on the floor. So there's multiple ways that can go, but with Batum out, there are minutes available where maybe Luke Kennard goes from 18 minutes to 22, 23, and as an unowned option at 3,300 looks kind of interesting. If George is out, then Kennard's projection is going to go up. So is Terrence Mann's at 4,100. Both of those guys could end up looking like very, very good value options as well.
Yeah, no, I think you got to be around your laptop or around your phone when we get that Paul George news, because I do think it's right now the most important news on the slate, barring anything unforeseen. So it'll open up some potentially low on values, and the Clippers, when value opens up, and there's always not someone who's a clear-cut beneficiary if one of those studs are in. So it gives us a chance to take some chances when the field really isn't. So keep an eye on that situation with the Clippers here. But I do want to talk about, I know you briefly mentioned Reggie Jackson and John Wall. They're both 4-4. Is this a situation where you might do a rule for Wall and Jackson? Has that been a rule that you've been doing this season by any chance?
Yeah, it has been one that I'm setting typically, especially as the Clippers have gotten healthier. We had a stretch where you were starting to see Wall and Jackson play alongside each other a little bit more, but now that you're getting them healthier, you're not getting it quite as much. Last game, you got 21.6 minutes for Wall. You got 29.8 for Jackson. So you got 2-3 minutes alongside each other. I do think that's a very reasonable rule to set.
Yeah, no, I definitely think, and I think that one of them has tournament upside potentially. They're going to come in very, very low on, and especially they'll look a little better if George is out tonight. So, all right, Jordan, 37 more likes. How do you feel? Have you been practicing behind the scenes there?
Yeah, I looked up the lyrics. I didn't know the song, and we're good to go.
Did you say you didn't know the song?
No, not word by word. Like I'm used to like someone
There's
starting
like
it off.
5 words, and one of them is my name.
Yeah.
And the other ones are the name of the song.
It's not a birthday without giving gifts. Adam, what's your Venmo?
I don't even know.
You don't know your Venmo?
Not off the top of my head.
Damn. Do you have a PayPal?
Yeah, it's my email.
It's your email. DM me your email. I'll send you a little birthday gift so you can enjoy at the bar.
I appreciate you.
And we hit 500 likes, but first, before Jordan sings, we will talk about Denver. And this is exciting. I don't know if there's ever been 500 likes before lock, but I made it happen. I made it happen. I'll cherish that for sure. But 11-8 Nikola Jokic and 11-5 over there on FanDuel. Nikola Jokic looks outstanding. It's going to be tricky to see if you can make viably strong lineups jamming in both Jokic and Doncic. It's going to get gross with some value options, but Nikola Jokic looks outstanding yet again. You can't move away from that. It's just simply, he looks great, 11-8 and 11-5. I think I'd be rather willing to spend up to Jokic than Doncic on FanDuel because of the opportunity cost at center. While over there on DraftKings, I have no issues. You pick one or the other. Jamal Murray, 7K. Love those minutes have been going up on DraftKings specifically. 8,100 on FanDuel seems a little too expensive for me. Aaron Gordon himself has been very impressive. I think he's been very comfortable this season compared to years past. So many of his points are just straight up dunks. It's very just feeding off of Jokic's assists. But he's priced up now. I don't think I'll get to much of Aaron Gordon, but it's a 4-game slate. Can certainly pull that off. I'd rather spend down to Michael Porter Jr., where you get the 3-point bonus. If he shoots efficiently on DraftKings scoring specifically, where he gets the 3-point bonus, I like getting above the field on a guy like MPJ over there. But everyone else on this team kind of going under the radar. Porter Jr. getting the most ownership on FanDuel, Jokic on DraftKings. How do you feel about this Denver matchup as they are at Denver tonight? They'll be playing at
So like it goes without saying that Nikola Jokic looks fantastic. The issue that I'm running into right now, and it's the same as this morning, is that Jokic is projected on DraftKings for about the same ownership as Doncic. Doncic is the higher projected player, and there is better cheap/mid-range center value on the slate than there is any other position. So I just think you're going to get a lot of lineups that project better, where if you are paying up, you're going to Luka, and then you're going with one or two of the cheaper centers, whether that's Zubats, Adams, Şengün, rolling the dice on Bamba, going to Carter, rolling the dice on Robert Williams. There's so many guys in that cheaper range that look good. So given that I think those lineups are going to project better, and the Jokic ownership is in line with the Luka ownership, I would just expect to go to more of the Luka lineups. If that changes between now and lock, and you get, maybe Luka going up to like 40% and Jokic coming down to 15 to 20, my opinion there starts to change, because then you're getting an advantage for taking fewer projected points. But right now, I just don't really think Jokic should be the same ownership as Luka for those two reasons. That's not a knock on Jokic. He's great. He's just not Luka. Jamal Murray at 7K looks great. not Luka from a fantasy standpoint, still team Jokic MVP, but Murray rather at 7K, I think looks great. He's playing huge minutes, should give you 35, 36 if this game's competitive. Michael Porter Jr. should give you around 30 at 5,900. You mentioned Aaron Gordon, like he is playing very well. The price tag has adjusted as a result, so it's difficult to say that like I really want to get to a lot of Aaron Gordon, but has at least finally figured out he can be very good offensively after I don't know, a decade in the league or whatever it's been, but certainly playing better. Just the issue for me is that the pricing has adjusted.
Yeah, no, it's been very impressive to see how Aaron Gordon's kind of developed, especially this season. I know he got traded about a year and a half ago. I want to say the year Murray got hurt is when they got him, and it's certainly working out. I really like this Denver Nuggets team. Hopefully, they can make some noise in the playoffs and nobody really gets hurt. But the secondary guys, KCP, Bruce Brown Jr., Bones Highland, kind of all fall in the tournament bucket, sub 10% owned. They kind of all have a weird upside. KCP at 4,600, where you get the 3-point bonus. You need a lot for him to go, and maybe 5,100 as well. Any interest getting above the field on any one of those three guys?
They're both fine just as a way to like round out, or any of them are fine as a way to like round out a lineup. It's kind of interesting just because like they're all getting similar ownership and they probably all should, but like they're just different plays. Like KCP, you know the minutes are going to be there, but it's just so few and far between for KCP to have a game that you really want. Whereas Bones Highland, you have no idea where the minutes are going to be, but the good Bones Highland games are just like insanely good. So, you know, you like the upside that you get there, but with everybody healthy, the minutes are just really difficult to count on. And then Bruce Brown, kind of the same thing. He's, you know, good fantasy producer when he's on the floor. He's like the first person to benefit if anything happens to anybody. You know, you get Porter foul trouble, you get Gordon foul trouble, you get KCP foul trouble. Any of those guys, Bruce Brown is probably just immediately subbing in and playing more minutes. So the path is there. It's just that it's not particularly likely, and he's not exactly cheap, still coming in at almost 5K.
Awesome. Any final thoughts on this Clippers and Denver game before we have Jordan sing for you?
Just a reminder to be around the late swap if you're playing tonight.
Yeah. All right, Jordan, it's your time to shine. I'm going to go back and we're going to talk about lineup generator and all those things. I want. You want? No. We're going to do it right now.
We'll do it at the end.
Fine.
Jordan's still trying to learn the words.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Jordan's still trying to learn the words.
He's been practicing. I've been seeing him like vocalizing in the background, and just getting ready for this situation. Make sure to put your camera up when you sing, because it'd be just weird if you don't. All right, but I just want to like have some like I guess quick like 1v1 situations if you're playing one lineup, Adam. Let's say, would you start with Luka or Jokic for those hand builders out there?
Luka. As long as the ownership is projected to be similar to Jokic, I'd be starting with Luka.
Okay. Let's say in the guard spot, let's say if we weren't playing Luka or Jokic, if you're fading both, who would your spend up be? Would it be Morant or Tatum? I think it's Morant for me. I think you probably leave the same.
Yeah, it would be Morant for me.
Yeah, and I don't know. It'd be a very interesting slate if both Luka and Jokic fail tonight. Definitely makes for an intriguing tournament build. They're priced up. This is one of the more ceiling price tags we've gotten on this slate. Do you have a favorite point per dollar value play?
Hold on. Let me try and sort by that. Because they all kind of suck.
They're all similar, right?
Yeah, like this morning, it was just like very clearly KJ Martin, and now it's not. So like we have Santi Aldama as the best point per dollar value, but I don't feel confident in that at all. You still have KJ Martin up there as, or you know, not at the top, but in the conversation just because he's so cheap. But really, I think it's likely to be those like mid-range centers, whether that's Steven Adams, Ivica Zubac, guys like that, because I don't really think there's a lot of John Conchar would be a good one at 4K. Tyus Jones at 4,300 you could throw in there. But yeah, basically, like if you sort our projections by point per dollar value, like I said, Santi Aldama is slightly edging everyone else out, but I'm not super confident on that one. Adams, Jones, Conchar, Williams, Zubac, Şengün, Carter, like you just start getting into the centers plus the cheap guys on Memphis that benefit from being out.
Okay.
Which is another reason why Luka is my answer over Jokic right now at similar ownership. It's like outside of Memphis guys, Aldama, Jones, and Conchar, all of the top point per dollar plays right now are projected to be centers.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a very interesting tournament build. And I know many people are hand building, but make sure to take advantage of the tools that we have. So many free day trials that we have. There's a 5-day free trial with all our DFS tools that you should take advantage of. It's an exciting lineup generator to help with this process. So you don't have to think about making these tough decisions. We're making them for you, making sure you put out the best data sound lineups that are available and potentially for you to win. So make sure to take advantage of that. Before we hand ourselves off to Live Before Lock, you guys can click that like button for us as we near 600 likes. And now I feel confident that Jordan is ready to sing for Adam's 33rd birthday. The floor is yours, Red Vine Klein.
All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Adam. Happy birthday to you. There we go.
Thank you, Jordan. Marilyn Monroe did it better, but close enough.
Yo, Jordan, you about to go viral for being the worst happy birthday singer out there. No, but thank you for owning up to that. And thank you so much for what you do, Jordan Klein. Adam, have a great birthday. Send me that PayPal address. I'll send you some borrow money for tonight. Good luck, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy your Thursday nights.
That's funny. They're actually going to think I'm going to sing. Huh? Oh, yeah. I was just going to, yeah, they can hear me. That was for you. That was for you guys.
Yo, we are back from the holidays. Happy New Year's, everyone, and a very happy New Year's to everyone that's about to get inducted into the Hall of Fame here and get their free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value. You want to get involved? You want to get up here, inducted into the Hall of Fame, have us do all the bragging for you, and get a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum? Easy. All you do, go to stokastic.com/avatar. Download the profile picture. Use it wherever you play. Then tweet your wins at Stokastic HOF on Twitter. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. Boom. Free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. You're in and you're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Or you can come on back and we'll do it again. Let's see who we got on the board this week. Some huge winners. First up, that's Stunner. This guy just crushes all the time. Actually tweeted from our handle. Great call by Ty Schmidt using the boomer bust tool to identify Donovan Mitchell as a strong option in NBA last night. Looks like a lot of people listened. Yeah, 100K first, second, 30K, third, 10K, fifth, 3K. And then a Stokastic avatar sitting right there. Wicked Mumbles in 4th place as well. Follow that up with the 4-point play. You got that Stunner at 15K and Wicked Mumbles second with 62.50. Big night for those two fellas rocking the Stokastic and the old school Awesemo avatar as well. Logan Grew. Luca is a god, just like the guys behind the Stokastic projections. Also, shout out to the analysis. Great analysis from the best today. Thanks, guys. $20,000 win to Logan Grew. Rocking the new Stokastic avatar. Looks good, man. Congratulations. And then Scott Vetter. Very simple man. At Stokastic HOF. $15,000 win and the $150,000 fair catch. Followed up by Wayne Hoggs. How about Wayne? 10,000 third place. Took down my first NBA top 3. I'll snag that free membership indeed. Laffy, shit my money. Thanks for all you boys do. No, man, thanks to you. Appreciate it and congratulations. And then Lord Malachi. Been watching content since 2020 bubble season. Picked up a PGA, MMA, NASCAR win, along with MLB, NBA, and NFL. Appreciate you guys a ton for what you do. Mama, I'm in the Hall of Fame. You've now been inducted, brother. And how about this from Lord Malachi? What a sweet thought here. Special shout out to my guy, Josh Engelman. Positive energy and thoughts your way. Josh is back, baby. Josh Engelman's back in the house. Colin Crampton, not a top 3, but hopefully still Hall of Fame worthy. Huge night thanks to the rare Awesemo DFS sighting on NBA Live Before Lock A, who's with us on Friday night. And I'm glad to see that helped out old Plubert here with a $10,000 win. We got a lot today. Zach McMurray, what a way to start out the new year. Binks in 2 different contests. Shout out to the boys over at Stokastic. Best advice and tools in the DFS industry. Thanks, man, and congrats. 3,000, 3,500 in the shot, and then in the 2 different Sunday shots. Love to see it. Juan, how about Juan? Sorry, a few days late. Didn't know you were giving out free membership. Yes, we are. Just got to meet the requirements and rock that avatar like you're doing. You guys are the best. He says $1,000. Well, forecheck hockey action. Congrats, Juan. And then can't say that name up top. We'll go to Hugo Seth 68 because that would be uncomfortable. $1,000 win here in the 15K single back. Shout out to Stokastic and the YouTube squad for turning my Washington into a Cleveland. I even made a Twitter for you folks. Congrats, man. Next up, you got Jerry. All right, Jerry, popped my NBA cherry last night. Super proud DFS moment. Thanks for all the awesome daily content. $1,000 in the mini max. Love it. First place to Jerry and Eric Johnston. Great resources as always. $875 going to him in the Friday windmill. A few more here before we wrap it up. You got Sammy Z. Shout out to Stokastic for the win. $500 victory there. Congrats, brother. And then Olimar, looking forward to that free premium month to take my game to the next level. That's why we do it, dude. Appreciate the team for all the provided insight to make us better players. 400, 250, first, second, and fifth in the piggy bank. Man, those are difficult to get that high. Huge fields. Congrats, man. And Melissa, over on Prize Picks. You know all about Prize Picks. An incredibly nice way to end 2022. Thanks for the projection, Stokastic. Use the $20 risk-free bet. Beautiful. Melissa closes it out. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. Welcome to everyone who's inducted into the Hall of Fame for the first time. Welcome back if you've been here before. Remember,
What is going on, guys, and welcome to the Stokastic NBA Live Before Lock show. For years, you guys have doubted that Jordan Klein was responsible for the music they just played in between shows. There's no doubt about it anymore. You guys have heard the musical stylings of Jordan Klein. You know it's real now. It's myself here. It's Eric Lindquist. It's Jordan Klein, who used to be the lead singer in a K-pop band, and now everybody knows it. Now everybody knows it's the truth. Jordan. Just a wonderful, wonderful birthday rendition that you gave to Adam. It came from your soul, did it not? How do you feel about yourself a few minutes afterwards?
It feels great. I'm ready for another birthday at the company, and I'm ready to sing it again. And I think it'll just be getting better from here.
There we go. All right. So things looking up for Jordan, and I'm sure that's going to be clipped. It's going to be played on social media, and I hope you guys will support Jordan's musical career as well as his producing career. As you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Shout out to BetMGM, who is the sponsor of today's program. Eric, how are you doing today?
I mean, some people call Jordan Klein the songbird of his generation. I don't even know why we're doing this show for the next 85 minutes. We should have ended it. It should be over. There's nothing better that is going to happen in these next 85 minutes. There's really no doubt about it. Jordan Klein, 1, respect. 2, sing more. And 3, I mean, I'm speechless.
The Beatles, Justin Bieber, Jordan Klein, right? I mean, there's just a pantheon of the best vocalists and the most popular pop artists that we've had in recent times. And Jordan certainly is going to be making the list. And by the way, this is a good question that Bossborough, not a super chat, but I have to bring it to the people because the PGA season started today, right? We're all excited about that. When does Liv come back, Eric?
So let's talk about the slate. We got a 4-gamer and lots of things to talk about. So we'll do that.
Is that tomorrow it starts? Next week? The week after?
Oh, I heard
I
this
know
is
you've
an
got it
NBA
circled
show.
on
It's
your
weird.
calendar. Eric Traub left us a super chat for Jordan's musical career. Here you go, buddy. $9.99, and that will $9.99. That'll buy you some new recording equipment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we could give that to Adam. That can go towards 1/100th of a stripper dance tonight. Like we could do that.
I'm sure though. I don't think Adam's standards are particularly high. $9.99. He could get himself a couple of fine ladies back at the dumpster at the local McDonald's. So
I need a dime. That's $9.99. Cute face so waist with a round behind. Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm telling you, $9.99 covers a lot, especially because I know he lives in the Baltimore area. Trust me, there's plenty available for $9.99.
You tell him we're back up.
But by the way, Devin Vassell to undergo knee procedure next week. Well, that's going to be a disaster for the Spurs. Might not be good this year. That could be an issue.
It's almost like you should have some top number 1, number 2 pick equity. I mean, this draft is going to be absurd this year. This draft's absurd. If you look at the talent top to bottom.
So if anybody has questions for us, throw them into the Discord channel. I have a feeling we're going to be able to answer them today because it's a 4-game slate. And not all 3 4-game slates are created equal, because sometimes we'll be talking about these slates like a couple of days ago where we had, I think it was a 3-gamer, but a bunch of players were on the injury report. We had a lot to talk about. Not really the case today, because if you look at today's injury report, fairly clean. We've got Paul George listed as questionable, and that is something that you and I are going to start with right here because I'm dictating the pace of the show. I get to call the shots. So we're going to start by talking about Paul George and what we're going to do with this situation, because it's kind of a shitty one. This game starts 2 hours later than any other game on the slate. He's questionable. And then also because of the lack of players that are on the injury report, if he's out, it's massive news. It has a massive, massive impact on the slate. But at the same time, too, if he plays and you get into guys like Terrence Mann, you don't really have recourse to swap or anything. So how are you going to handle Paul George being questionable?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. So FanDuel, I'm looking at the 9,400 and 9K difference between him and Kawhi Leonard. I mean, Kawhi already looks good no matter what. Maybe you just have a rule in place where you just have one of the two. Now, if you're going to play both in the same lineup, best of luck to you. But also, I think a 9,400 Kawhi over on FanDuel doesn't feel as appealing. Now, on DraftKings, you'd be leaving 700 on the table. You can find some ways to utilize that salary. And obviously, you could upgrade a couple of spots if you have exposure to Denver. And it's just that Jokic is really the only thing from the Denver side that I find to be all that appealing whatsoever. I'll have a little Jamal Murray. I'll have a little Aaron Gordon, maybe a share of Michael Porter Jr. when it's all said and done. But it's such a no man's land when they're 5K to 7K on DraftKings, as opposed to the Clippers guys that are all sub 5K that you'd want to get to in the absence of Paul George. So as you said, it's a really muddy, icky situation. You could build it where you're just saying, hey, I think Paul George is going to sit, and then you can be handsomely rewarded. I just don't think I necessarily believe that. He traveled with the team. It's in Denver. I don't know. It's a really wonky situation. I think on FanDuel a lot cleaner than it is on DraftKings.
Yeah, and then I guess we should talk about it just so we make sure we cover all our bases here. And we've got not just 51 minutes, but typically Thursdays, Eric and I don't do a post-lock show, but today we do because there is no NFL. Thursday Night Football done. So Eric and I are going to be sticking around for 30 minutes after lock, where we will sit around and not get Paul George used in that time slot as well. But who knows? Maybe it will break and we'll be around for those 30 minutes anyway. But in the event that he does not end up playing, we know Kawhi Leonard is going to get a bump, and also no real minutes restriction to be all that concerned about when it comes to Kawhi. Tail end of front end of a back-to-back. I believe they play tomorrow also, so he'll probably just sit that game. But if Paul George plays, he would certainly benefit. Who are the other guys that you would see as primary benefactors you feel like you would have to play if Paul George is inactive?
Yeah, it's a little bit different site to site because, Norman Powell, he hadn't shot the ball particularly well at times here in the last couple. I mean, 1 for 8, just 3 shot attempts there against the Pacers, 5 for 12. Not ideal there, but over on FanDuel, he's 5,700. On DraftKings, you're talking about him being like a 5,200 guy that would be a contrarian piece as well. But like Kawhi, yes. Ivica Zubac, I already get to. I already like him. Him and Jokic have had some wars. Somehow I've been to like every Clippers Denver game that they've played here in LA. And Obviously, this one going on in Denver, but like Zubats is going to play a lot of minutes. I don't think people really understand. If you go through the box score and look at some of these Denver matchups, 29, but he was in a little bit of early foul trouble there in November. You go back to last year. I mean, he's played big giga minutes, as my friend Jesse would call that. So I'm saying just Zubats really stands out. It's strange to me that he's not pulling any ownership on FanDuel, even at the elevated tag there. I know that there are a lot of good center plays, but sub 5K on DraftKings, I already like him now. I would absolutely love him there. Marcus Morris would shoot up the board. Reggie Jackson, 4,400 would shoot way up the board. Terrence Mann, we've seen a number of these situations where he'll get the celebratory start. Now, it depends how well he plays, just like last time when he got the start, absent Kawhi Leonard here. I think you would see him be the guy who starts there in place of Paul George, and he could play 34 minutes. He could play 23 minutes like we just saw. So depends on how well he plays. Luke Kennard comes off the bench. He's 3,300. I want to get to him. There isn't a single Clipper I wouldn't want to get to if Paul George sits. Like out of the main rotational guys.
And also, these players are not going to be all that popular just because of unless the news was to break in the next, hour or so, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Would you agree we don't get this news until after all the other games lock?
Gee, Rios, I just said he played 29 minutes. I just said that he had the 2 quick fouls and then played 29 minutes there, but I'm saying that he's lately played north of 30 minutes in a lot of competitive ball games. We have 34, 41, 31, 30, 34. That's 5 of his last 6. It's a huge freaking difference when you talk about a dude who's a 0.95 DraftKings points per minute player, and then you were to take one of the core guys off the floor. He's sub 5K on DraftKings.
All right, relax. We don't need you to have a heart attack. Not on a 4-game slate. If you're going to do it on a 12-game slate or have more shit to talk about,
I have some Paul George history.
For a 4-game slate, though, I mean, I can't do this 4 games for an hour and a half on my own. Gotta bring the heart rate down a little bit.
Please take a feel. You're venting. I'm fine. I'm feeling great.
Some of the ownership on these Clippers players, and I'm going to, I'll sort it by DraftKings and then by FanDuel as well. So the Clippers right now, what the ownership is looking like, we've got Kawhi at 25%, Zubats 21%, Marcus Morris 17%, Reggie Jackson 15%. Every other player on the team unowned right now, as far as DraftKings goes. Going to pull it up for FanDuel now, just so you guys get that info as well. The FanDuel ownerships. Marcus Morris 17% on, Kawhi 16%, Reggie Jackson 13%. Here's what's annoying about this. I feel like guessing this news right on Paul George is pivotal, and what everybody's kind of doing is pretending it doesn't exist when they're building their lineups.
Yeah, so I think embracing it has always been what you and I have done on these shows. You're really going to be screwed. It's not like you're taking zeros, though, if Paul George does play. Like, that's the one thing that's a plus. It's not like a lot of these guys aren't going to be in the rotation. Now, Terrence Mann goes from being borderline playable on FanDuel at 5,400 to completely unplayable if Paul George ends up in. So, like, that's the one guy that I just have terrible feelings for. On DraftKings, I think you can take that shot regardless, 4,100. It's a little bit less cost prohibitive, and, you get the start. He plays well. 2 things that kind of need to go right for you, but he still makes sense with the point guard, shooting guard eligibility. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's really wonky. It's really gross. And on a 4-game slate, it's definitely amplified, especially because I don't really like any value on this slate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not a single piece of sub 5K chalk that I'm looking at that feels remotely palatable.
We've got a doozy of a super chat here. A doozy one, because H has left us a super chat here, and there's a couple of elements to it. First, good evening, gents. Who runs a faster 40-yard dash, Eric or Greg?
Eric.
It's tough. I've got a bad knee that I dislocated a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you're screwed then.
See, the thing is, I wouldn't even want it. Like, there wouldn't even be enough. There's not enough upside for me to risk it to try to do like a full out sprint. You get older, and not that, I mean, I'm 32 years old. Clearly, I'm not like old in the ground, not as old as Eric or anything. But one thing you do realize is you don't want to take risks when it comes to stuff like exercising. So I do a lot of like HIIT exercises at home. And I do find that if I was to push myself and do like really physical activities like I did in college, it wouldn't be worth the injury risk. I'll give you this one, Eric.
Thank you. Follow time. Y'all give you push-ups. I've got 40-yard dash. We'll round out our Olympic card at some point. We'll compete in the Eric and Greg Olympics. Usually that just ends in me inviting you over to my place and then we make up.
And then, yeah, the fun way. The follow-up question, which of you have a better understanding of Kierkegaard's concept of infinite qualitative distinction?
What?
I think we could call this one a draw. Is that fair?
Yeah, I know it has something to do with humanity. Kierkegaard is, I don't know. What was he? I mean, it's obviously something like philosophical based on the way that he prefaced it. And it's generally when somebody throws something like that out there, I don't know. I can't remember. I'm Nietzsche and like those kind of things. I don't know.
I can't remember something I never knew. So no way for me to answer. Jordan, do you have any input on this?
Finite and the infinite in Kierkegaard. First literary period, first stages of life, the aesthetic, the ethical, and the religious. I have no fucking clue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey,
no clue.
Listen, this is not our wheelhouse.
Nope.
We don't know. We've called that one a draw. Some questions that we have in the Discord channel to answer. First is from Just Locks. Hey guys, I'm sick. Well, I hope you feel better and haven't looked into much of this slate. For FanDuel GPP, who are you guys targeting for guard? All right, so the guards that I got to most often in the FanDuel lineups I ran, at point guard, the ones I got to the most were Spencer Dinwiddie and Jordan Clarkson. At shooting guard, Dinwiddie, Clarkson as well, because they both have eligibility. And then Beasley and Luka were two other players that popped up. Who are the guards you would consider the highest priority on FanDuel, point guard, shooting guard?
So yeah, I've got 20 lineups over there right now. I might build out a couple of it more board, but like Luka Doncic, he's just a piece you want to get to on today's slate. I don't want to get to as much of the Tyus Jones chalk because I do think there's an opportunity to get to a couple Clippers, but I think he makes sense against Orlando. I think that's just fine. You're not going to be getting the Bane in there. Marcus Smart is fine as well. There's one guard that I'm feeling pretty confident that I'm going to be way over on, and it doesn't feel good. But Spencer Dinwiddie right now is not pulling all that much ownership at 6,100 on FanDuel. I don't know why, because yeah, as he shot the ball pretty poorly, has Luka just gone completely berserk the last few? Sure. But if you told me I was getting high 30s, low 40s from Spencer Dinwiddie at 6,100, I'd kind of be auto-clicking that on any slate. And, you know, for him to be at 28%, the fifth highest owned guard, like I like him straight up more than I like Jordan Clarkson. Like I project him for more than Jordan Clarkson. I know we're about, 3.5 away for Stokastic here, but like this is a minutes and opportunity thing here. And I just think Spencer Dinwiddie at 28% is under-owned.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was one of my answers as well there. So what's really annoying about Spencer Dinwiddie, other than the fact that he's generally been shitty at times when I've rostered him, is that it's hard to not project him well when his minutes are insane right now. If you look at the last 5 games, the minutes for Dinwiddie, 38, 36, 35, 44, 41. Like, I get that he's not shooting the ball particularly well from the field and the usage is kind of low, which is going to happen when Luka's doing literally everything for this team. But at the same time, too, unless we're just going to say Spencer Dinwiddie is an absolute dog shit points per minute fantasy producer, which he isn't, you're just going to project him well in 38 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a recency bias thing, too. People look at the game logs or, you know, we start projecting him lower than we probably should be. Because, I mean, for me, I put him in at a 0.9 fantasy point per minute rate, put 41 minutes in, and he looks awesome to me. I have him projected right around 35 in that scenario. I've got Jordan Clarkson right around 33. I think that it's pretty comparable here at Stokastic, besides Spencer Dinwiddie coming in around 29. Now, do I understand that the fantasy point per minute rate? I mean, it's so nice to have directly on the page for you, you know, 0.9. We've got him right around sub 0.85, which makes sense because Luka's been taking up more of the workload. But in that vein, I just want to get to Spencer Dinwiddie because I think he's coming in under-owned. If he plays 41 minutes, 42 minutes, we expect this game to be competitive. It's just a 3-point spread. There's no reason that you would have him lower owned than Marcus Smart, lower owned than Jordan Clarkson. Like that to me is a little bit off.
No, I think that totally makes sense. We're on the same page there. I also like Dinwiddie quite a bit as a tournament play as far as FanDuel is concerned. Now I've got another question here from JEW. He says his top projected lineup on DraftKings ends up with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 4 Grizzlies, Jokic, Luka, and 1 more player. Is this crazy for single entry? By the way, I like how he told us all of the players except for one guy, just one other player. Everybody else is Luka, Jokic, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and then mystery. So is this crazy? First off, 4 Grizzlies,
Yes.
I don't think that's crazy.
No, no, that's not. But the Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I just heard that name and it made me vomit a little bit.
Yeah, so we had questions about Nickeil Alexander-Walker the other day as well. And I mean, he just doesn't really play enough minutes for there to be a lot of upside in him unless there's going to be some kind of blowout. There's generally better values to get to. Now, I will say this about today's slate. There isn't that much value. And if we're going to get ceiling games out of Jokic and Doncic, which is possible it happens, you might get one of these guys who's $3,300 on DraftKings, might go out and score 12 fantasy points and land in an optimal lineup just because you need to have Luka and Jokic in a lineup. But I'm not getting to Nickeil Alexander-Walker today.
I have 0%, zero interest.
As for the rest of it, though, I don't have an issue with Luka. Don't have an issue with Jokic. Don't have an issue with getting to 4 Grizzlies. What is? Did you set any kind of limits on Grizzlies that you're going to be playing in lineups?
Nope, none. And I'm not going to get to so I think Santi Aldama is just terrible chalk, but we'll get there.
Yeah. So when it comes to the Grizzlies, we have Brandon Clark is out, Desmond Bane resting. So those 2 players are out. It definitely opens up some extra opportunity for the Grizzlies. It's not insane opportunity, but because value is so slim on this 4-game slate, you just have all the field gravitating towards the Grizzlies. I understand why, but I definitely get a little bit concerned with the fact that I'm getting to a shit ton of Grizzlies today, but it's also kind of necessary. But in terms of Memphis, give me the rundown. Who are your favorite players to roster from the team and least favorite relative to their current ownership?
Yeah, my favorite to roster. Yesterday, we got some questions about Jaren Jackson Jr. I didn't think it was all that necessary. The blowout probably saved me from needing to have him. He was awesome in 24 minutes, and you know what you're getting. And what we've basically been getting for him for the last 2 months is him staying out of foul trouble. And if he does that, there is such a drastic, ridiculous upside. They can play some small ball 5 where he ends up being kind of the main beneficiary of that. You don't have Brandon Clark out there. Xavier Tillman got extra run yesterday because, well, of course, the blowout. So that made sense. But I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is probably the low, he's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th in terms of ownership on DraftKings in terms of the Grizzlies. And he's my flat out favorite guy to get to for tournaments. Steven Adams, I think he's pretty unavoidable, but 40% of the field have gotten to him so far. And center, there are other places to go. He's now up to 5,700. I really hit the brakes on it yesterday, but that was a 12-gamer where there were drastically more plays available. Here at 5,700, I think that I'm more willing to play, closer to what the field's on there, but it's not like I'm getting any kind of leverage there. John Conchar is just another whatever play. At 4K with the shooting guard, small forward eligibility, he really makes sense. Tyus Jones, just because of that role that you can get for him without Desmond Bane, we can see an influx of minutes, and I just think he's flat out good. I think he makes sense at 4,300, probably the best piece of value that we have, independent of what the Clippers could be. But I'm just finding it unbelievable how many people want to play Santi Aldama in his 20 minutes, 22 minutes. If he plays 15 or 16 minutes, which is in the range of outcomes, or 18 minutes, which is in the range of outcomes, yeah, he's a 0.93 fantasy point per minute guy, but you're holding hands with 30% of the field, and you could look at better value coming from the Clippers. You could basically find that same exact play all over Houston. And so for me, that's just a piece where I'm willing to kind of part with it. That's the one that confuses me the most out of the Memphis situation, but Jaren Jackson Jr., power forward eligibility. Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. I have a ton of it.
We're on the same page. And that was what I was going to say as well, is I think there's tiers to the Memphis plays. And by the way, I gave Santi Aldama 18 minutes today, and it makes him project out not all that well.
I hate it.
So relative to where the field is at on, it makes me not like him nearly as much. But here's kind of the tiers I have with Memphis guys. Towards the top, I think Steven Adams and John Conchar are the 2 best points per dollar plays on the team and players that I'm cool with eating the chalk on. And then I have the next group of guys where I think Dylan Brooks, Tyus Jones, Jaren Jackson Jr., they all go together. And then Santi Aldama, points per dollar is not the worst play ever, but I just think he's a little bit too popular. So I just don't really end up getting to him all that much. But relative to where the ownership is, the guy I am the most overweight to is Triple J, Jaren Jackson
Look at
Jr.
that.
And
Look at us. We are totally going to get smashed today, by the way.
well, the other thing too is, I mean, the foul trouble went away for a little bit and it's kind of returned in recent games. But even in limited minutes, he's kind of done really well as of late. And the price point has come down to such an extent
And
that
no
I think it's
Desmond
mitigated
Bane.
some of the risk. Because remember, Jaren Jackson Jr. not all that long ago was, let's see, we go back 2 weeks ago, he was $7,600 on DraftKings. So he's come down over $1,000. And then we look at him on FanDuel, where don't forget, you're also getting the benefit of the defensive stat bonus. So he's 7K on FanDuel, and he's actually picking up ownership there more appropriately at 30%. But I'm with you. I think the DK ownership at 20% is not enough considering the scenario without Desmond Bane. And then just the salary decrease. So the recent games for him, even where there's been some foul trouble issues, still 35 fantasy points, 33, 44. On a 4-game slate, if you're going to get that out of him at $6,500, it's not the end of the world. So same page here. And it's a great matchup.
And power forward eligibility. Like everything matches up for a while. I want to get to a ton of him today. And so you and I never talk about slates like ever until we go live on shows. And I think it's probably a good thing. Like there's people I'll DM throughout the day talking about slates or talking about plays, but I always like to get a fresh perspective. I like a lot that we're on the same page when it comes to Memphis. I think that that's a clear cut, like we're always looking for like the sharp angle or trying to make good decisions routinely over a long period of time because you'll eventually get rewarded. Could Santi Aldama work out today? He absolutely could. And somebody will DM me on Twitter and be like, oh, I told you Santi Aldama was awesome. And how could you fade him? Such an unfadeable play. Doesn't matter. He could go for 40 and I wouldn't give a flying F. Like, I just absolutely find him to be so grotesque as chalk because look at Houston. Like, there are multiple pieces from Houston. KJ Martin, who's 3,500. Eric Gordon, who's 3,500. Jayshawn Tate, who's 3,700. Aren't those the identical plays that we're talking about with Santi Aldama? And they're all at 11% or lower. Those are 3 identical plays. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
You know what's going to really make you take crazy pills?
What?
We've got this graphic from our sponsor, BetMGM.
Dear sweet
and
Jesus,
oh my God,
today.
is it fantastic. It is just the Jordan, pull this graphic up because sometimes I think people forget about the graphic. It doesn't always come to mind. And I think when I look at the day and I start to get ready, Eric sees this late and goes, oh, I'm going to text my friends about all the best value plays. And I go, fuck yeah, BetMGM sponsor. We're going to get to see the graphic. And I know this is going to be your response. So I always get excited about it. But you guys should get excited about BetMGM too, because when you sign up by using our link, you get 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum, and you're going to get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. And look at what it does to Eric Lindquist, who is really public enemy number 1 around here more often than not. So if you guys have the ability to put Eric in this kind of state of mind, you want to sign up at BetMGM. Eric, respond.
Hey, goose.
I don't know what that was supposed to be.
A liar from yesterday. I don't know. It's just not thrilled. Not thrilled with my workplace environment right now with you treating me the way that you do and having people freaking out and saying, is Eric upset? I'm trying to help you guys make money and make good decisions, but you know what? You can take it for what it will. Sometimes your basketball coach isn't supposed to be your friend. Sometimes, the best coach is somebody who pushes you to be better, encourages you, but through the tone of a very angry Greg Popovich. That's me.
I have to do the sexual harassment training in a couple of days, and I'm just going to ask what the implications are of us getting naked and after the post-lock show and hang out on Zoom together. We'll see. I don't know if that fits with company policy or not. We'll find out. I'll text you later when we get more information. Some more super chats that have come in as well as questions in the Discord. First from Freshka. Freshka wants to know any rules for playing the big men in Memphis together. For a 4-game slate, especially when the value is so concentrated, I didn't set any specific rules about wanting to or not wanting certain players together.
I didn't hear anything you just said. We got the starting lineup from Memphis and
nothing unexpected. Morant, Conchar, Brooks, Jaren Jackson. Jr.,
exactly what we expected. So what am I answering?
Yeah. So Freshka wants to know any rules for playing the big men in Memphis together. I did not set any.
I didn't set a single rule whatsoever today, except for on FanDuel. I am only getting one of Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. That's the only rule I have on either site today.
I think that makes sense.
Just because
Nothing
I
fundamentals.
don't want to necessarily. Do I understand that there are a lot of scenarios where they work out together? Sure, but I want to get to Paul George and then find a way to get to Kawhi Leonard, or because that's just the $400 difference, or I just want one of them.
The next super chat that we have here is from. I did have it up a second ago, and then it disappeared. Oh, here we go. Love the news updates added to the lineup generator. Keeps getting better and better. Yeah, lineup generator, we're definitely making improvements. We're also going to be adding other sports in the near future. But one of the features you get over at Stokastic, if you were to sign up at BetMGM and get the 2 months free over there, you do get access to the lineup generator. Also, we have our 5-day free trial that you guys, if you've not signed up at Stokastic and want to check it out. But yeah, lots of updates that we've made to the lineup generator, and there'll be more coming in the future. Rosso Music. Yo, fellas, DK Tiers question. Jaren Jackson Jr., Jordan Clarkson, Spencer Dinwiddie, or I assume that's Jalen Green. And the second one, Hardaway, Conley, Adams, Smart. Okay, so 3. All right, so we're going to have to do these one by one.
Yeah. JJ.
Jaren Jackson Jr., Clarkson, Dinwiddie, and Jalen Green. So of those 3.
Triple J and Dinwiddie for me, my 2 favorites. They're going to be also lower owned than Clarkson for sure.
My answer is going to be Jaren Jackson Jr. I haven't projected very similarly to Clarkson, but like you, I assume he's going to be a little bit lower owned. So we'll go with Triple J there. Second, Hardaway, Conley, Adams, or Smart. That feels like Adams to me.
Yeah, I'll take the chalk there.
Yeah, it's Adams. And then the final one, Zubats, Olenek, or Brooks.
Zubats, and it's not close for me. And I could imagine that he'll be the lowest owned of those 3 as well.
Let's see.
I love all things Zubats today.
Why can I not find Zubat? Oh, there it is. So the answer for me is Dylan Brooks. And I don't like Dylan Brooks. He's an enemy of mine, but there's the bump he gets without Desmond Bane in there. Hard for me to overlook him. So Dylan Brooks, that's gonna be my guy. I'm gonna go with Dylan Brooks there. But one thing that's interesting you brought up with Zubats, I would probably have a fairly close projection on Zubats and Brooks if Paul George was to be ruled out. And Zubats will most likely be lower owned than Dylan Brooks. But at least how things stand now, I'm gonna be answering Dylan Brooks.
That is correct.
Let's see, are there more super chats here? One from Squeak Diesel. Oh, a sticker. We got a sticker from somebody who isn't Weatherman. This is just a emoji with hard eyes and the mouth open in an uncomfortable way. But we appreciate you, Squeak Diesel.
That's a thirsty sticker. It's a thirsty, thick sticker.
Shane.
Oh, he did. Okay, never mind. Hey, Eric, how was the Paul Reed play last night? I had 3%, I think, is what I ended up with yesterday. 3?
0% Paul Reed.
I was going to have 0. I accidentally ended up having 3%. And you must not have listened all the way through that show. I love when people come in for like 40 minutes of a show or 30 minutes of a show and take away something that I say. And then PJ Tucker starts at the 5 and they just want to give me shit. It's just hilarious.
I love the PJ Tucker memes. They're not relevant anymore because PJ Tucker's terrible and doesn't play. But have you ever seen you know what I'm talking about?
No, I just know his shoe collection. It's pretty sick.
Okay. There's PJ Tucker memes, and it was when he used to get paid a lot of money to just start on good teams, and it would be you'd have to see the meme. It's very stupid, but it makes me laugh. Shane Daly,
Eric, great calling Gary Trent. If you start saying the one individual player or 2 individual players that I get wrong in a slate, we're going to be here all day. I made money. How about you? I made money yesterday.
Shane Daly. How bad does Eric eat splitting 8s with a 10 up? What 3 guards you over the field on DK? Great job, guys.
I would just get up and leave the table. That's the solution. You don't have to play at a table where people are ridiculous and stupid. It's not required. I would just leave.
What 3 guys are we way over the field to on DraftKings? All right, so I've got
Jaren Jackson Jr. He's an almost 70% of my lineups. So there you go.
I'm overweight to the field on Luka.
I'm over the weight to Luka as well.
But I guess most overweight.
But like I'm at 38% on Luka. So like again, it's not like I'm way over on him. Relative to the field, I am the highest owned over on. Just kind of looking at this. Alperen Şengün, I have 40 something percent. He's at 19.4. And then who's somebody else that I just have a lot more of?
It's hard to say because there's a bunch of guys that have ownership in the teens. By the way, Şengün's one of them for me, who I get to like 30+% of.
We're on the same page today.
Another one for me is Eric Gordon, just because. Yep. Also, so I like Eric Gordon the same way that before JEW asked us about Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I don't like Eric Gordon. I just think relative to the other shitty plays that are cheap, he's my preferred one as being the least shitty who isn't Santi Aldama that allows me to spend up for stars.
He's the same play as Santi Aldama. Then he's going to play more minutes. He's just going to play more minutes than him. So, whatever. He's a terrible fantasy point per minute guy, but like 18 minutes of Aldama is equal to 25 minutes of Eric Gordon.
I have Eric Gordon projected for 1/10 of a fantasy point more than Aldama. And that just makes me lean towards Eric Gordon for, 1/3 of the ownership. I don't feel great about it. But if we're just answering who we overweight to, and I'm trying to find low-owned players as opposed to saying like, hey, I'm overweight to Luka, which is true, but he's also really popular. But in terms of lower-owned guys, yeah, Şengün's one of them for me. Eric Gordon's one. Mike Conley's another one. Anybody else?
Mike Conley has? I'm curious because this is something that is just like breaking my life. Has going overweight to Mike Conley ever worked out? It just feels like
days when he plays well.
I just feel like every time that I've been overweight to Mike Conley, I just get torched and burned. And again, if I just ran with what I would project him for here at 31, I would get him in so many lineups. Fortunately, I don't have to do that. But like, I don't think people understand. He's better than a 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy too. And like, I know they have other backcourt pieces. They just choose not to utilize them or play them. You're getting low 30s minutes of Mike Conley pretty much every time out. So yeah, I'm overweight to him, but it doesn't feel good.
You know when it would have worked out? Because I know it did. 2 days ago, his last game, he was fairly low owned against the Kings, and he put up 38 fantasy points in 33 minutes.
I didn't even play him, so I wouldn't even know. Larger slate, little different. Or was that the 3-gamer? That was the 3-gamer. You're right.
Yeah.
I still wasn't overweight to him. I hate myself.
Yeah. Mike Conley played well that game. He's had a really solid year. There's been a massive difference for the Jazz. I know because I have a bunch of Jazz futures bets. I'm like the only person rooting for them this year. I watch all of their games. But he's been massively important for them, especially because their defense totally shits the bed when he isn't on the court. So they kind of rely on him for big minutes.
Makes sense to me. I mean, they're 19 and 21 now. I know they're below. What are they? They're below 500 now. They are. I can't find it. Riveting television. Riveting YouTube. Why can't I find Utah? Yeah, 19 and 20 now. 19 and 21 coming up.
Holding on to the final play-in spot. I'm real forever. FanDuel last man in. Bullock, Bamba, Gary Harris, Aldama. Aren't these players? These are like way different positions, though.
I mean, it's like a utility, and they're just kind of like filling it out.
But there is no utility on FanDuel.
But yeah, FanDuel, that's weird. Bullock, Bamba, Gary Harris, Aldama. Yeah, that nothing about that makes sense.
All right, so let's say of those guys,
won't be Aldama at ownership.
What is my answer? It is once again Bullock, Bamba.
I would not use
Gary
a center
Harris.
spot on Mo Bamba today. I will remove him because I have ethics.
One thing
I choose business ethics.
One thing that's annoying, at least I thought that Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr. could play minutes together yesterday, and they didn't. Of those players, I do have Bamba projected the best.
I will go with Bullock just for the hell of it to not be the other three. Gary Harris, I don't know. Like we're getting the start from him. I wasn't on him yesterday. I think it still worked out for people. It's not like he was some world beater. Yeah. What do you do? 27 minutes, 25. Yeah. I just didn't like the play then. I'm not going to like it now with Jalen Suggs existing in the world. You have what? Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Gary Harris. That's your backcourt. I bet Terrence Ross just gets the brakes pumped hard based on what we saw yesterday. He played really, really well, but with everybody else being healthy, I doubt he gets any kind of a minutes allotment. I'll go the Bullock side, even though I really hate Reggie Bullock. I just don't like the other three at all.
If you guys haven't done yet, do us a favor, like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have a bunch of questions that have just come in through Discord. So I'm going to go through some of these. First are from Miami High Life. Miami High Life. Thoughts on KJ Martin as a punt play for a DK GPP to get to Luka and Jokic, or better to throw Kennard and hope Paul George is ruled out, maybe Eric Gordon? I prefer Eric Gordon of those options.
Let me see.
It's Martin, Kennard, or Eric Gordon.
Kennard or Eric Gordon. I mean, Kennard on DK.
Yeah.
DK Kennard could end up being really, really good if you get Paul George sitting. He's dust if he doesn't. So that's problematic. That's a tough way to kind of throw it out there. I don't know. My rats come in packs like KJ Martin, and I got so many keys you think I'm Valley Parking. Shake your tail feather. Let's go KJ Martin.
Okay, your answer is Martin. I'm going to go with I'm going with Eric Gordon here.
Okay,
but all of them are not the ones that you feel most comfortable playing. But I have the most exposure to Eric Gordon, so that is going to be my answer. Golf Boy 007, thoughts on playing Brown and Tatum together on DraftKings? So no, but not because of any concerns with the negative correlation, as much as they're just other players I prefer to roster today.
Yep.
And then you've got Tatum and Brown are both so expensive on DK that I don't think either of them are good points per dollar plays. I would much prefer to spend up to Luka or to Jokic over Tatum or Brown. So playing them together is hard for me to recommend when I'm not even playing that much of them individually.
Yeah, I mean, they're both pulling a rate around 10%, and that is just a spot where I can go other places. Plus, I feel like I'm punting a lot small forward. I feel like I'm punting a lot shooting guard power forward, like Jaren Jackson Jr. at power forward, just taking up that spot a lot. Like for me, I feel like point guard, Luka Doncic just makes the most sense. And I get it. There's a lot of people who want to hit eject on that. I'm getting to a lot of Spencer Dinwiddie kind of as another complimentary piece where it's just like, you know, there's going to be a big Spencer Dinwiddie game. You want to have a part of your life here. But yeah, for me, just where they're at 9,500, 10-9, Dallas, 231.5 total. I mean, it's kind of up from some of these Dallas games, but overall, this is a team that's routinely played at the back end of pace. They're 29th in pace this season, 95.9 possessions per 48 minutes. I don't know. Feels very unlikely that they're going to be the guys that you need to have. I like Jason Tatum props just about everywhere. I do not like him as a DFS play.
We've got a lot of questions now. Now we've got super chats to answer. We've got Discord questions. So let's hit up this question from John Good. Hate that I'm even asking this, but any love for a starting Gary Harris at 5% on DraftKings? Any love?
I mean, love is not the word. I have 0 right now.
So Gary Harris. Oh, I still only have Boston selected.
Legitimately 0.
So I have Gary Harris for 17.5 fantasy points. He's $3,800 on DraftKings. I think he kind of goes into the same boat as like Eric Gordon, KJ Martin type guys. If you had him in a lineup and that's just your spot to fill out the end of the lineup, it's not the end of the world. But like Eric, I'm not playing him.
That's all.
The next super chat is from John Bryant. Last man in, $6,300 and under on DraftKings. $6,300 and under for me. I mean, the one that projects the best for me is Steven Adams. I think it stands to reason you probably already have Steven Adams. The one that's next best for me is Şengün, but you might not have a center spot to play because Steven Adams, also somebody said there. So Steven Adams 1, Şengün 2, Spencer Dinwiddie 3.
I think that sounds like almost identical to what I have as I'm fixing everything. So yeah, I'm with you.
I'm real forever. Oh no, we answered that super chat. The next one here is from A1 Andy. Just woke up in Perth, Australia. Covington or Tillman? Tillman played well yesterday and could be in another blowout. And then Robert Covington tipped to get run by Ty Lue.
No. Here's the thing. Xavier Tillman, they were up 30. Like 30. They knew it was a back-to-back. I think they gave Tillman some extended run. I bet Jaren Jackson Jr. plays some backup 5 here. I bet, Santi Aldama is going to play enough there. It's like, I can't do any Xavier Tillman today. I get it. 3,100. There aren't many guys that if they got some run there, you could really project out, but don't get in the habit of projecting blowouts. Don't get in the habit, especially when it's within reason. Like this isn't a 13.5 for a 14.5 points. It's 6.5, 7. So like, stop it.
So the other thing too is this game is 6.5. Utah Houston is 7 points. Denver Clippers, that's a 6-point spread. And if Paul George gets ruled out, that probably goes to 8.5. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying like, hey, I have to avoid Memphis, Orlando, the starters, because I think the game's going to be blowout. It's not any more of a blowout risk than Houston, Utah, or than Denver against the Clippers. So you kind of pigeonhole yourself into assuming one game is going to be blowout and not the others. It's hard when the spread's only like 6.5 points. The by far most likely scenario is the game stays competitive. Blowouts happen in the NBA, but I wouldn't build lineups assuming blowout there, which you are on the same page as me. A1 Andy, I would just say different cheap guy.
Yep. Perfect.
Rugaru. DK Cash, why is so much of the Memphis bench optimal? Max Memphis. I don't have any players with more than 4 players from the Grizzlies. The reason so many players are popping up in Optimizer from the Grizzlies is because Desmond Bane is resting and because we have Brandon Clark out. That's why.
Oh, it's tiring being so good.
Most Bane. What's the most amount of Grizzlies you're playing?
I don't have any with 4. I don't have 4 Grizzlies in a lineup. 3 is the most I'm looking at right now. That might change here as I'm finishing everything up for both sites, but I can guarantee I don't have more than 4 on FanDuel.
There we go.
Age-old joke.
I think you've made it on every show for the last 2 weeks.
I think I have. I need to stop.
Just keep it going. Make it the new thing.
No, I'd really not. I'm just disappointed nobody picked up on that. I quoted "Shake Your Tail Feather" with KJ Martin. I thought that was pretty nifty.
We have a super chat coming up. Somebody did take notice. Claw 28. Gordon or KJ Martin on DraftKings? I prefer Eric Gordon.
Eric Gordon. And that's a weird thing to prefer ever.
The Claw 28. Best shooting guard on DraftKings. DK 5,100 and under. 5,100 DraftKings shooting guard. What is the answer for me there? So 5,100, that is Malik Beasley.
Zubats.
At shooting guard?
Yeah, just at shooting guard. Yeah, no, that's great. Malik Beasley.
All right, there we go. Eric's trying to cheat over here.
No, I'm trying to get both sites done. Can you tell?
I mean, I could tell you're not really paying attention. I don't know.
I was paying attention to you. I love you. I heard 5,100 and under, and I just knew Zubats was there, so I'm a sick person. I apologize.
Just found other more interesting things to do.
Well, I want to hear Jordan Klein sing again, and so I think we need to get the likes up so that we can hear Jordan Klein sing "Shake Your Tail Feather."
Jordan, what are the odds that you would ever sing on a show again?
What about "Shake Your Tail Feather"?
Definitely not twice in the same show, for sure. Not that. That's not happening.
Yeah, no. I can't imagine anybody in the history of this YouTube channel has ever sung twice in the same show.
I can't imagine that would be the case.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Well, for one, the audience.
What a loser! What an idiot!
Yeah, the audience would mutiny and just leave if we ever did that. So there's no way it's ever happened before. So slate locks in 10 minutes, guys, but Eric and I are going to be here for the extra 30 minutes post-lock show. After the main slate locks, we're going to be talking about any kind of sweats that might be going on in terms of injuries, right? If players ruled out, or if there's a starting lineup that we're not expecting, something happens with Paul George. We'll be covering that in the post-lock show, but also we're going to be featuring BetPro, the newest tool that we have over at Stokastic to help you guys find profitable NBA bets, and we're going to be looking through those right after we get to lock and trying to find our favorite bets of the day. Vinny C wants to know, who is the center on FanDuel you want 0% exposure to based off field ownership? Depends how many lineups we're talking about, but
yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. It's a 4-gamer. Let's see. Center, I want nothing to do with the current ownership. Wendell Carter Jr. inevitable on FanDuel. Jokic inevitable on FanDuel in any amount of lineups.
There aren't that many popular centers.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at. Mo Bamba, I have 0 of. So there you go. That's the first person that I have 0 of that we've gotten down in the list. He's at 14%. I think Walker Kessler is the best center play on FanDuel, and it's not remotely close, by the way.
I'm going to say Aaron Gordon, who is picking up double-digit ownership as center eligibility, 7,200 on FanDuel.
What? Is he pulling that much? I have 5%. So that's wild to me that somebody would do that to themselves. Yeah, I'm just in love with Walker Kessler. He's sub 10% at 4,700 on a site that gives you 3 points for a block. Like, stop it. Thank you. I will take all of that. You got more. Nikola Jokic is the best center play, duh. But like, I'm saying best play compared to ownership and for tournaments, just play Walker Kessler on FanDuel.
Corey Shea, best utility DK player for 5K and under. All right, 5K and under. To sort by all of the positions. So it can be 5K, but it could be less. Zubats. If you already have Zubats in your lineup, then Malik Beasley. So I assume you're going to answer Zubats based on your answer before we try.
Well, I mean, yeah, guard. But you can't. I got to play him at shooting guard.
All right. What about utility? Does he work utility or only shooting guard?
I suppose. Fine.
All right. Zubats, the answer for both of us. Already somebody who I think is a pretty good play, but his potential to really be strong if the game ends up starting and Paul George is out. The next super chat we have is from Big Money NJ. Nelly, Diddy, and Murphy Lee bars for Eric. There you go. Now your music.
Now I feel appropriately fulfilled. I just couldn't believe chat gave me nothing when I said it. It was just crickets. Crickets.
It was a pretty solid bomb. They didn't even get upset. They just didn't acknowledge it. Jorge Giacomi, are you guys on Conchar? Am I crazy having him in 70% of my lineups? No, I think he's, as far as cheap plays go, I think he's kind of an unavoidable piece of chalk on DraftKings, especially to enable us to pay up for the stars on the slate. I'm totally cool with loading up on Conchar.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you're just going to build all of your lineups knowing that you can make $0 and assume Paul George is out, then you can go ahead and do that. I am taking a select number of my lineups and I'm building with the idea that he would be out. And that's kind of how I'm handling it. But for the most part, I got to say, not something that you should be avoiding. He's just fine today.
DC24, if the game is close, who closes for Orlando? Markelle Fultz, Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., and whoever else is playing well for the team. So Gary Harris is the starting fifth player there, but if Terrence Ross is to be shooting well, it could be him. If Cole Anthony is shooting well, it could be him off the bench. I feel pretty good about saying Fultz, Wagner, Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr., and then the fifth start or fifth closer, I should say, is just going to be based on game flow. The next question that we have is from... Oh, did we answer all of the super chats? I believe so. I'll check to see if Jordan sent me any other ones. If not, I'm going to look in the Discord channel because I know we had a bunch of questions that came in Discord as well as I scroll through all the super chats that Jordan left. First, from the Maharishi wants to know, would Horford be worth a last man in dart, being that he flopped his chalk last game? I'm not really getting to Horford today. It's hard to figure out some of the Celtics rotation just because they have such a deep team. And I assume that at some point, Robert Williams is going to play more minutes. Malcolm Brogdon also, they have the potential to go smaller and play Brogdon as well. And then you could get, Horford not even being on the court. So I'm not really in love with Horford today. Is he somebody you played much of?
No. So Horford was somebody that I had a lot of interest in as I was looking at that OKC game. And then as the day went on 2 days ago, it became inevitably clear that the field had a lot more confidence in Al Horford than I did to go out and do rational things. That worked out, obviously, but not so much celebratory as it is just like, I'm pretty positive that Robert Williams going to definitely cut into that workload here very, very soon. The thing that's different is that like he's not popular in the same way. So go ahead and take some shots, but like he's just another dude on this slate.
The next question we have is from Jaw. Let's try to answer these quick so we can answer
we'll fly
before we close off. Jaw 1224 DK Cash, Şengün Smith versus Jaren Jackson Jr., Robert Williams. I can't advocate for Jaren Jackson Jr., Time Lord, and cash games. Those are solely tournament guys. So
I kind of like them
Smith.
better than having both pieces of that front. Actually, that's not true. Jabari Smith and Şengün. I like Şengün a lot. So closer for me, but Şengün. I'll go that side with you.
T. Lee wants to know who our favorite plays for single entry. Do you have your lineups set? If not,
I've got them up now.
All right. Would you prefer to answer for FanDuel or DraftKings? I have lineups built for both. I can answer.
I have lineups built for both too. So it's whatever you want. I'll go DraftKings because I'm looking at it.
Okay. So for DraftKings, Eric, which point guards do you have the most exposure to?
Luka Doncic, Mike Conley. I ended up doing it, and Spencer Dinwiddie.
Dinwiddie, Clarkson, Tyus Jones on FanDuel. Shooting guard?
Shooting guard is Conchar, Marcus Smart, Spencer Dinwiddie.
Shooting guard, Beasley, Brooks, and Luka.
Mm-hmm.
This is for FanDuel. For you at small forward, Eric, on DraftKings.
By far, Kawhi Leonard, John Conchar, and Eric Gordon.
Malik Beasley, Dylan Brooks, Franz Wagner. Power forward?
Jaren Jackson Jr. Well, Kawhi first, obviously. Same thing coming over. Jaren Jackson Jr. and Marcus Morris.
Jabari Smith, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Wendell Carter Jr. Center for you.
Zubats, Şengün Smith.
Şengün, already said Jaren Jackson before, already said Wendell Carter Jr., and then Jokic and Walker Kessler ended up coming up after that for me.
Love it.
So there we go. There are the answers. Once again, I'll scroll to make sure that we didn't get any more super chats that came in. Got some more questions in Discord to answer. Tall Tale, how many Grizzlies on DK per lineup would you guys allow? I have a couple lineups with 4. I have none with more than 4. And I think Eric said 3 was the most he had.
Yeah, I have 2 with 4.
JEW, thoughts on Time Lord tonight? He's worth a shot in tournaments, but it's really annoying that the minutes haven't really increased. Like he's been right like 19 to 22 minutes pretty much every game. There's so many good center plays today, though, that I have some exposure to him, not as much as I've had on some other small slates. And typically, because I've tried to chase Robert Williams, like today's going to be the day. And then the individual times I don't play him, he goes for like 40 fantasy points in 20 minutes. So I would like to get to more of them, but just wasn't in the cards for me. So players in my player pool, just not a ton of them. Josh 111, thoughts on Walker Kessler at 47K instead of the worst chalk play in recent memory, Santi Aldama in quotation marks. I have more exposure to Walker Kessler.
I love Walker Kessler. We talked about that already.
Big Dream, FanDuel spend up option, Tatum or Ja. I prefer Ja.
Ja.
All right. I think we hit on all of these. Went rapid fire, got everything answered. We've got about 30 seconds to go until lock. Is there anything, Eric, we have not yet talked about that you think we should have brought up right before we head into lock?
No, hopefully we get some kind of clarity in the next half hour. I would not go anywhere because we could get the Clippers news anytime between now and obviously it could very well happen, more likely to happen maybe after the fact, but you would not want to miss that analysis and hopefully we'll be able to react.
Yeah, so that's really the only piece of news we're waiting on coming into the show, and nothing has changed. Paul George was questionable. Paul George is still questionable. If he's out, if he's in, we don't know what the starting lineup is going to be without him. We also don't know that either. But if Paul George does not play, what is your expectation for the starting 5 for the Clippers?
So I think Terrence Mann just jumps in. I think Terrence Mann, whether it's Kawhi or Paul George, I think Terrence Mann ends up coming in and starting.
I tend to agree. Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Ivica Zubats. Iron Mike wants to know, out of 150 lineups, do I have any with both Luka and Jokic? So I didn't play 150 lineups on DraftKings. I played 20. I also don't know whether he's asking about FanDuel or DraftKings.
That's different.
Of the 20 lineups I played in DraftKings, none of them have both. I did build out 150 lineups on FanDuel, and of those, Only 15 have Luka and Jokic both in them. It's hard. There isn't enough value to comfortably get both of them into lineups today. Did you get to a lot of lineups with both Luka and Jokic?
With Luka and Jokic, let me take a look. I can find there's one, two. I have two lineups of that out of let's see, 40 on DK and over on FanDuel. I think I probably have 0 on FanDuel. I'm pretty positive I have 0 on FanDuel.
It's
0
just
on
tough because
FanDuel.
of the it's on DraftKings, it's tough because of the pricing. On FanDuel, it's tough because of the positions.
Yeah, I have very, very little of very little of Luka Doncic on FanDuel today.
Oh, really? I thought you were going to say Jokic.
Nope. I ended up with a little bit more of him. Luka's up to 12-8 on FanDuel, and I just I went really, really hard into the camp for going into the camp for Spencer Dinwiddie over there. And I think at 12-8, what happened is it just ended up trimming off some of it. I only have 10% of them on FanDuel. That's wild. I need to probably change that here in the next little bit, because I was getting to 35% Nikola Jokic. What happens is you upload the ownership percentage, and then I think it's just like an ownership thing where I think Luka's coming in a little bit over-owned over there. Let me take a look at our boom bust tool. Yeah, so it's about identical there. We've got him just slight negative leverage on Luka, a little bit more on Jokic, but I already talked about my Kessler love. I am so over on Kessler and Şengün that it's really hard for me to have other center spots. And so, yeah, maybe I need to just kind of adjust a little bit of that as we get closer to lock, or as a lock of that game.
Starting lineup for the Mavericks: Luka, Dinwiddie, Hardaway, Bullock, and Wood. That is your starting 5 for the Mavericks. And I guess Christian Wood just kind of stuck as the starting centers, played himself into the role. And as much as Jason Kidd doesn't want to do it, kind of has been left with no recourse and just plays Christian Wood because he's considerably better than the other options they have. We got the Celtics starting lineup. Also, nothing unexpected. Smart, White, Brown, Tatum, Horford. I do expect one day we're going to see the Celtics starting lineup, and it's just going to be Robert Williams and Al Horford in the front court. So I always keep an eye on it, but it's yet to happen.
That day is not today.
So let's get ready to talk about some bets. Jordan, if you could do us the honors of pulling Bet Pro up on the screen, Eric and I are going to look for some of our favorite bets of the day from our new projections that we have over at Stokastic.com that you guys can get access to for free for 1 week by clicking on the link below in the description box. It's going to be thrown into the YouTube chat as well. And what you're going to be getting with Bet Pro, it's really simple. It is the prop lines. It is our projection. It's our percentage odds of that bet to win. It's expected value on the bets, as well as how much we recommend you should be betting on each of those relative to your bankroll. So I think this is a really useful tool. We've back tested all of it, so we know that it has been profitable since the start of the year. And it's profitable to the point, too, where if you guys were betting all of these numbers, even after the cost, you would have made $2,400 if we placed $100 on each of the prop bets that we were projecting to be positive EV. To start, any bets that you have for tonight, Eric?
Yeah, so, I mean, we just got done bashing Jason Tatum in terms of a DFS play, but very hard for me to get away from both him and Luka Doncic in terms of points. I just project them for this is a competitive game, which we haven't necessarily had a ton of those of late for the Boston Celtics, even because they played like shit themselves the other night. But 31.5 points that were sitting there for Jason Tatum was something that I was very, very interested in. Luka Doncic, it is wild to say this, absolutely wild, but I thought one of the best plays on the entire board from him today was 52.5 PRA. Yeah, you heard me, 52.5. Not anything that I'm going nuts with, just a standard bet for me there, but it's just wild that kind of thing is in play for any kind of a slate. This is a higher than normal Dallas total. You're north of 230. Part of that is the Boston Celtics' first and adjusted offensive rating this season. I just think this game really sets up nicely for both of them at these kind of numbers. I think it's just a little bit too low.
Yeah, I think that definitely does make sense. I'm looking through because there was a really weird opening number. Kevin Porter Jr. opened with an over-under of 1.5 threes. And Kevin Porter Jr., who's making nearly 3 threes per game this year, that was a number that was just insanely low, but it is now been bet to a much more reasonable 2.5 number. So Kevin Porter Jr., at, what's actually funny is on DraftKings, they do have the 1.5 slip there, but it's minus 190 on the over. So it's been juiced a whole bunch. Even a minus 190, I don't think that's a terrible bet because you need it to win like 66% of the time at minus 190, and it ends up covering it. Based on the production for Kevin Porter Jr. this year shooting, I actually do think he covers the minus 190. So I don't mind that. It's obviously not as good as earlier in the day when I bet it at minus 145, but still, I think the over is worthwhile there. Looking through some of the other numbers that we have here in BetPro, here's one that I've been on, and we've talked about as well on some other slates. Walker Kessler over 1.5 blocks.
Yep.
He's constantly getting listed at 1.5 blocks, and the numbers come down. For a while, the 1.5 blocks was like plus 175, plus 180 on the over. We're not getting quite that value anymore, but still, if you're looking at that number over 1.5 blocks plus 110, we haven't projected for north of 2 blocks. And just based on what he's done, even in limited minutes this year, I mean, I know you're not going to like hearing this, Eric, but I don't really think he's been that much worse than Rudy Gobert. And he was basically a throw-in in the Rudy Gobert trade.
Yeah, I mean, I like hearing it because I do like Walker Kessler. I think he's been awesome. I think he's a very fun, electric defensive talent. But yeah, no, I am heartbroken as a Minnesota Timberwolves fan that we have inherited absolute trash of a situation. It goes both ways. Like I think our front office thought we were being sharp and very advantageous and that it was a buy low spot, but we didn't buy low on Rudy Gobert. That's my biggest concern and problem is that we gave up a shit ton to get Rudy Gobert. We are definitely worse off now than what we were before we made that trade.
So a couple of things. Number one is I think if Karl Anthony Towns didn't get hurt, I think there would have been a much better opportunity for the chemistry to gel and for them to look better this year. The other thing too, though, is Rudy Gobert's always been somebody that's looked extremely well in some of the advanced stats and some of the on-off court numbers where I think a lot of people have looked at him as being one of the best defensive players in the NBA for that reason. And all of his numbers show just a really significant decline. And the thing that I'm concerned about with the Timberwolves is did they just pay a lot for Rudy Gobert? And here's the part that I did not see from the trade is if you were to ask me to be skeptical about it, I would have said, what does the fit look like with Towns and Gobert? And I was probably a little higher on the situation than most people were. Gobert might just be past prime now. I think that's a very, very real possibility. And just looking at the dunks and threes numbers right now, Gobert, 74th overall percentile in EPM. Good, not great. Just somebody who's like an above average starter. Where would you guess Walker Kessler's, though, in EPM?
Very good, Greg.
79. No, I mean, not very good, but just almost identical to Gobert, 79th percentile. And once again, he was just a guy who was a throw-in as part of the Gobert trade. And I almost feel like Utah got somebody who at least where both these guys are at in their careers. I just don't know that Rudy Gobert is significantly better than Walker Kessler, unless Gobert, this is just a scenario where he needed to take some time to, acclimate to the situation.
No, I'm not well. I'm not happy.
Got a super chat. This will make you feel better. Frankie Lofton. Luka and Jabari Smith or Kawhi and Laurie? I prefer Luka and Jabari Smith.
Oh, a little foreshadowing there from Gregory.
Duka.
Yeah, I do too.
Duka Doncic.
I love Kawhi Leonard today. I'm okay getting burned if Paul George plays. Like, I'm okay with it. I will still just have a lot. I think it's easier on FanDuel to have a lot of him and then just turn that into Paul George. On DK, I'm just going to sink and be sad. I'll need something magical to happen for me because I have so much 8,100 Kawhi Leonard. But obviously I can turn some of that into Paul George if I need to on FanDuel.
Yeah, so given that I just accidentally called Luka Duka, I was because number one, obviously
downgrade
Duke on my mind. But the other thing too,
Aww.
why did you settle on the name Duke for your puppy?
Oh, so I grew up a diehard Duke basketball fan. That was kind of like my team growing up. But then this is going to be a sad story. You ready for a sad story? We have this in the extra time. But I had a Jack Russell Terrier named Duke that my freshman year of high school golf had it just before it turned 1, got ran over by a neighbor. They came over and hit Duke and killed my dog. And so whenever I was able to get a dog of my own, I always knew What? No, he didn't do it on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Sick person. No, the dog came bolting out, didn't see it. He ran over the dog, and it was like a devastating thing for me because I absolutely loved this dog. And I don't think I had an attachment to a dog because we had other dogs too, and I just never really felt all that close to them. But I was like, when we get a dog, we're gonna name it Duke. That's how we got the name.
Nice. All right. So the first Duke was also because of the college Duke.
Yeah, also because of college Duke. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So, it's funny. So my best friend, Matt, growing up, his first dog was also named Duke. And then his mom started to get, every time him or one of his brothers went to school, his mom would get another dog to try to fill the void of one of the children. And then as one of the dogs died, she would get like 2 more dogs to try to fill the void also. So they ended up having a ton of dogs. And and they're all named after colleges.
Yep, that's cool. Yeah, we had another dog that was Valpo that we named after Valparaiso, where my brother went to school. We've had the college thing with dogs for a while too, but it's cool.
How about Frankie Lofton said that he missed the answer to his super chat. So circling back on this, both Eric and I were in agreement that Luka and Jabari Smith, and the other part of this is I accidentally called Luka Duka.
Yep, you foreshadowed. Maybe I should take away my DK exposure too. I am very surprised at the FanDuel where it didn't show up in the wash, like as I updated for ownership. Part of it is I think Luka ends up very, very popular even on FanDuel. And I think with the triple-double bonus, with the ridiculousness that he's shown the last couple, I think on DK, maybe a little bit more valuable. You can run into some stocks and blocks that can skew things in a different way on FanDuel. I'm not sure. I haven't been playing a lot of FanDuel, so maybe this is just something that I'm doing incorrectly here today. But yeah, he's at 37%. I am way under that.
Victor Melendez says that his wife's boyfriend is named Duke.
Aw.
What has your puppy been up to at night?
Mm-hmm.
Victor's wife, apparently.
Yeah,
apparently. We've also got Matthew Reinhardt said that his dog's name is Cena, as in John Cena. It was named by his 5-year-old nephew. Were you into wrestling at all as a kid?
Not really. That's like the one thing that I skipped. And part of it is I was just like so obsessed with playing sports and watching sports. And like that's all I cared about. And then just watching TV and movies. Like South Dakota, there wasn't a whole lot else to do other than that. So I just did that. Wrestling was just like another thing. And none of my friends were really into it. It felt like, oh, you're not actually competing for anything. Like there weren't the stakes that I was looking for that you got automatically from sports.
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, also, like, because, you're a kid, you just kind of are into whatever your dad is into for the most part. And so we watched a lot of football. We watched basketball. I would go to basketball games with them. I never understood wrestling. Never understood wrestling at all.
Neither.
Like it was, and also I recognized it as fake from the time I was like 4 as well. So I never got into the competitive architecture of it and the weird, the whole. It's all seemed
never made sense to me.
I've never related to it, and even
we have
now,
never agreed on something this much before.
And also, whatever people are into, I don't really give a shit. Like I know that Josh really likes wrestling, and I mean, grown men being into wrestling, I don't understand it. Like it's something that just doesn't. It just doesn't resonate with me.
Dude, I'm with you. It's always been a little bit strange to me. Never been my thing.
Pugs and Hugs says you have to get really high and then watch. Amazing viewing experience. Maybe, or I could just watch cartoons.
Or I could just watch cartoons.
Yeah. But I like wrestling as the actual sport, though.
You like wrestling as the actual sport? What do you mean by that?
The sport wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Because here we're talking about wrestling.
I wasn't really into that either, though. Because I mean, I don't know when it was weird. And like I went to Iowa State, so we had a wrestling coach, Cale Sanderson, who was like undefeated, 155-0. I think was the number that he was in college because there was a big banner.
He's the best collegiate wrestler of all time.
Yeah, so I worked out with the wrestling teams in the summer and got to know him just like from the weight room because I was this skinny little South Dakota kid. Gained some weight since then, but I was in the weight room all the time with the wrestlers in the summer. And he was like playing racquetball with everybody and kicking everybody's ass. Like he is by far the best athlete that I'm probably ever going to run into in my entire life or come across at that point in time. But we had the Iowa State-Iowa wrestling match, and ESPN came out with their 100 things you have to do. And I was the president of the student athletes for a couple years or whatever. And I would go to wrestling matches and hang out and see this crazy environment, but I couldn't get behind what was going on. Like, I like MMA, I like boxing, but wrestling just was so weird to me. All these different things. And then, the pinning, but you never really see many pins. Like, I don't know, you didn't really see it at that kind of level of wrestling. It was always weird to me. It'd be like going to a football game and not seeing touchdowns scored. It's like, I want to see the main event take place, like see somebody get pinned. And it seemed like that just never happened.
You should, also the one thing that's also appealing about the matches are pretty quick, right? It's not like they go on.
Oh yeah, they're
long.
Quick. And there's like 9 in succession for the weight classes. It like goes progressively to the heavyweights. That's kind of cool, but
you should look up the ending of Gable Steveson winning the gold medal in the last Olympics. That was pretty cool. So he was down and then scored points with like half a second left to win the gold medal. I find the
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. Fun. Eric wants to see you guys get pinned. What? No, I don't. That'd be silly. I don't want to do that.
That's how this is gonna end. Yeah. We're the post-lock show. As soon as this ends, Eric's gonna be like, "Hey, you guys all want to take our clothes off and wrestle a little bit?"
Yeah.
Just for fun.
Yep.
To practice some moves.
Well, you like what you like.
Some early results from the games. What's going on? There is basically no scoring in the Memphis-Orlando game, but do you know who the top scoring player is for FanDuel purposes?
Jaren
Jackson Jr., who is 2 blocks in 4 minutes. I feel like good. If you're 4 minutes into a game and Jaren Jackson Jr. has 0 personal fouls, he's off to a hell of a start for him.
Dude, he was the 7th highest owned basketball player for the Grizzlies today. And he was just like, it was such an automatic pull the trigger, regardless of what happens kind of play. I really don't care what happens. I feel like I won. How popular did he end up, by the way? Let me look at the $9 on FanDuel. I was focused on that primarily.
I'll pull up DK.
35% on FanDuel. Okay, he ended up a little bit more popular. Yeah, he's 25.9. He 10% more popular, and I still don't even really care. He was still probably underowned at that number.
He ended up being 25% on DK.
Smash.
It's a little more popular than we thought, but either way, he's off to a pretty decent start.
What did my arch nemesis come in at today? Santi Aldama.
I'm gonna have to download the CSV.
I ended up with 5% of him on DK. So bad. I don't understand that play from people today. 40 lineups, 5%. It's wild.
All right, Aldama. I'm downloading the CSV. In the meantime, though, I'm just scrolling through lineups to see if I could find one with him in and then get his ownership from there, because I think he might have ended up being a lot less popular than we thought he was going to be, though. Aldama, 19% owned.
Oh, okay. That's not as egregious, but it's still identical to. Here's what I'm worried about. This is what I feel is going to happen. I think Eric Gordon's going to end up more popular than that. I'm very, very worried about it. Like, I'm very worried Eric Gordon, people are going to see 3,500 starting, no minutes limit, all this other crap that we already got from that. I'm very worried that he ends up steamed. Like, I think that's very live to happen.
I don't know. I mean, it depends what steamed means.
You do not.
I mean, it depends what steamed means. Like, is he going to be 30% owned? I very highly doubt it.
Okay. You Mr. Skeptic. We'll see. Because does that lock at 4:30?
I don't know. You're in that weird time zone. Nobody knows what that means.
But it's provocative. No, we have to wait until 8 p.m. 8 p.m. your time.
Yeah. So it's about 40 minutes till that starts. 10 minutes left in our show, and we have no clue whether Paul George is going to play or not. Put the actually, Jordan, can we get a poll going in chat? Let's just ask the people. Will Paul George play or not? Simple yes or no. And this is what's probably going to decide it. I imagine that right now, the Clippers are probably watching our show and they probably want to know whether they should play Paul George or not. And I think this is going to help them decide it.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
So let's get that poll going and we'll see what people say. Do you want him to play or not?
I do not want him to play. I have more lineups built than I think the average bear does, with it in mind that he would not play. Like, I think that enough people are just not considering it the way that they probably should. Now, it's a 4-game slate, and I didn't just say all in on one side of it. I don't want to be completely dead there, but I only need a handful of these lineups to really be built out where I get to Luke Kennard where they don't, where I get to Terrence Mann and they don't. Now, Terrence Mann on FanDuel, I'm not getting to either way. 5,400, no thanks. Reggie Jackson, both sites. That's a spot where, I'm just way over the field right now, just because of the number of lineups I do have with him.
So we got the votes piling in, already up to 100 votes pretty much immediately. And it looks like the field, we're seeing this pretty, even as the vote count goes up, 75-25 in favor of him sitting.
Well, with that in mind, you all should be jamming Clippers. If it were to be a 75% chance he sits, you would just want to jam it on the other side.
The Grizzlies Magic game is 9-4, halfway through the first quarter. Here's the good news for us, though.
Oh,
Triple J is doing all of it. 5 points, 2 boards, and 2 blocks for our guy, 3 J's.
Love it. Now our watch begins, though. Santi Aldama in the basketball game. Again, he only ended up 19%. That's not as egregious as what I was thinking it was going to be.
Aldama in the game. Oh,
John
by the way,
Conchar,
third block for Jaren Jackson Jr.
Oh, my God.
Who did Aldama check in for? Adams?
No, he checked in for what's his face? Who am I looking for? Conchar, right? Nope, he's in. Conchar is in still. Why is my streaming? As soon as you ask that, of course, it starts timing out on me. He checked in for Jaren Jackson Jr. There he is. Gotcha. He just came off the floor.
All right. Well, there we go. Triple J. We're off to a good start with our guy.
And no fouls. That's another gigantic
yeah.
component.
Yeah. The fact that he blocked 3 shots without fouling anybody, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Christmas is over, but that's a Christmas miracle. He has 15.4 on FanDuel.
I love it.
Oh.
The blocks will do it. He does have the 1 turnover now, but who cares?
Who cares?
Yeah, so as of right now, I mean, there aren't that many good plays on the slate because the score is 9-5 halfway through the first quarter. But the guys that right now, if you've played, you probably feel pretty decent about. John Conchar, because he's so cheap. Mm-hmm. He has 3 rebounds and a block. Jaren Jackson Jr., 5 points, 2 boards, 3 blocks. From the Orlando side of the game, Gary Harris has 4 points and a rebound. Fultz has 2 points, 3 rebounds, and a steal. Franz Wagner, 0 stats across the board. As of right now, I would not really want to have anybody from the Magic.
Nope, not a single person. Where was this Steven Adams yesterday? I needed Steven Adams to suck yesterday. He did not suck yesterday. Now he's got a steal and a turnover. Oh, okay. Then the rest of the game happened.
At the time of our show ended, he hardly had any fantasy points.
Son of a biscuit. Bankera already up to 3 boards. That was the one thing that those things where it's just like, I shouldn't pull the trigger, but I want to or whatever. I was looking at 7 rebounds. Didn't do it because I'm a fish. I'm an absolute fish.
Had by yourself.
Call the ambulance, but not for me.
But it is for you.
But it is for me.
But it is for you.
Yeah.
The next game to start is going to be Celtics Mavericks. That starts up in about 5 minutes. Is there anything from a betting standpoint that you think could end up becoming appealing? I'm pulling up Bet Pro again. Anything that could be appealing if we are to see Paul George get ruled out? Like which props or which lines would you look to bet on that game if we find out Paul George isn't playing?
So for all you California people out there who are playing prize picks every single day with me, here you go. They have Marcus Morris. They have Kawhi Leonard. They have Reggie Jackson available right now. you should jam them to the moon the second you see Paul George ruled out. Like, you should just have them in the queue. Like right now, I have 18.5 points plus rebounds plus assists for Reggie Jackson queued up. You should have 20.5 for a fantasy score queued up. You should have that everywhere. As many of these as you could possibly get in that little bitty time period. Like, you need to have them. Marcus Morris is at 22.5 fantasy score. Reggie Jackson, 20.5. Those are all smashes. In terms of Bet Pro, as I'm looking at everything over there, Walker Kessler still makes so much sense in all the land. He's the highest positive EV guy that we have left. 54% expected win percentage. So yeah, I'm going to win just over half the time. But at plus 110 over at BetMGM right now, Yahtzee. That looks really, really good.
You know what happened to the Memphis Grizzlies here? They took Jaren Jackson Jr. out and shit just started to hit the fan.
Bring him
Santi
back.
Aldama has played 1.5 minutes. What do you think his plus minus is in that 1.5 minutes?
What's the score now?
Well, you can't do math. You have to guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, I want to do the math. Because I would say,
then you just cheat.
What's the score? It's 13-9. It was 9-4. So yeah, I'm going to say -9 if I had to guess.
Yeah, he's -9 in a minute and a half.
Hey, look at me.
We got to get Triple J back in there. We got to get Triple J back in there.
That's what I said. Get your ass out there and you find that effing dog.
By the way, Jaren Jackson Jr. is like plus 130 to win Defensive Player of the Year now.
What?
Yeah. Jaren Jackson Jr., the overwhelming favorite. And I agree. Poker Pro Eric is saying that Eric cheated by asking for the score. He absolutely did. This was not this was not a third grade math problem. This was, what do you think has happened since Santi Aldama came in? And Eric's response was, tell me, not how the game is played. Not how the game is played.
I figured it out. Well,
yeah, you did.
I can either look at the number that is on the screen and see what the score is and then give you the plus minus, or I could also just not. Let's see. Eric Gordon is starting. Just had to make sure that Porter Jr. regular starting lineup for the Rockets.
Yep. Porter Jr., Green, Gordon, Jabari Smith Jr., and Şengün. So everything is normal there. Did you see the early voting returns for the NBA All-Star?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Congress for a second, or the House of Representatives right now, Speaker of the House stuff. No, I did not see anything. I know that I saw a tweet that you had about it, but I didn't read it.
So if the All-Star game was to start now, based on here's what's really difficult about and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Because of the way the positions work, one of these players has to not start for the East. Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, or Jason Tatum. One of those four is not going to be a starter this year, unless there's an injury replacement. If one of them gets hurt and then one has to go in. So to me, I think the biggest decision point, if anybody's voting, is who do you leave off the East starters? There's only 3 front court players that start. Kevin Durant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Joel Embiid, and Jason Tatum are all worthy of being all-star starters, but it just doesn't work that way. Which one of them would you leave off?
Irving? Irving?
No. Durant, Giannis, Embiid, and Tatum. Of those 4, only 3 could start in the All-Star.
Oh, shit. So that's right, because you need the 2 guards. So, yeah, I'm saying Irving, Mitchell. That's impossible. I mean, Tatum's... It depends what you prioritize, because, like, it's the same thing that exists for every sport where it's, like, Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year shouldn't be to the best team, just like Jason Tatum. Like, he's been on the best team so far this season, despite what we saw against OKC. I would keep Tatum off out of the 3. Durant, Giannis, Embiid. He's got Jaylen Brown. He's got the best supporting cast of everybody else there. Yeah, Durant does have Irving there, but I like him more. Giannis and Embiid, I feel like you just kind of have to go with them over Tatum. Yeah, I'd put him 4th.
Yeah, and Durant, by the way, Tatum is having an incredible year.
Incredible.
But so Durant is having an insane year. I think you can make a case that Durant's been better than Giannis or Embiid this year. If you really look at the efficiency stats, Kevin Durant has a 68% true shooting percentage. That's ridiculous. His scoring efficiency for a guy who's averaging close to 30 points per game on a 68% true shooting. So I feel like he has to start. Giannis has been so good lately. I kind of feel like he has to. The one thing I think you can make a case, because Joel Embiid, to me, if you're just playing one game and you have the choice, do you take Joel Embiid or Jason Tatum? I imagine almost everybody who lives outside of Boston is taking Joel Embiid. If you want to put Tatum over Embiid because of missed games, I don't have an issue with that. But in terms of just who's played better this year, I think Durant, Giannis, and Embiid have all played better than Jason Tatum. Also why I think that it's been totally ridiculous that Tatum, until recently, was the betting favorite to win MVP. I thought that was way
crazy
off
to
base.
me. That's crazy.
Not the case anymore. Now it's
good.
Now it's Luka Doncic, and I think that's probably going to be the case for unless there's some sort of injury or some precipitous drop off in production. I think Luka wins MVP this year.
Well, think about those three players too. I think this is Donovan Mitchell resting tomorrow. That's going to be wild. But I'm pretty positive. Like, you look at the body of Giannis, Joel Embiid, and Kevin Durant. Like, they are also specifically physical freaks. Jason Tatum is just kind of like a baller. He's like a Kobe Bryant, where he's, I guess that's why they had the correlation and they liked each other so much. But like, they're kind of built the same and do a lot of the same things the same way. A lot of great mid-range game, kind of developed that over the course of the last couple of years. Those other three are just like physical freaks who, it doesn't matter what era, whatever kind of basketball you want to play, they're just going to be so dominant. I think that's going to be something that over time probably hurts Tatum in terms of voting more than anything.
All right, that is going to do it for us today, guys. Everybody who stuck around, thank you very much. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be back here tomorrow live before lock with EMAC, a different Eric. So check us out then. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, gamers.